The demon turns to Charlotte and tells her that he has been waiting for her. The knight screams and tells the main character not to do this because he believes that she needs to retreat, because this demon brings death and cannot be defeated by relying only on human strength. The man claims that if he uses more magic in his condition, her life will be in danger, and therefore suggests retreating. Charlotte asks where they will retreat, because she believes that if they do not finish him off now, it will be the end for all of them. The knight agrees with the lady, and she says that this is why she is now going to fight until her last breath, because he himself taught her this. The girl believes that magic obeys the will of the one who uses it, and therefore suggests not to worry because mana and magic are her family and friends, and this land is her birthplace, and this world is her ally. On the day of death, one girl saved the world, and the demon offers to remember his words, because he still intends to come for her and swears to it. He claims that he will swallow her completely without a trace. After that day, the whole world began to call the girl an archmage. The woman tells Charlotte that she is a genius, and her abilities have exceeded all her expectations, and the girl agrees with her and says that she knows it. An elderly woman asks if she could be a little more modest. The main character asks when the teacher will stop behaving like this, and then claims that she constantly pretends to be sick or that she is about to die. The lady says that she has a dying wish, and the girl claims that she is not dying because she has a common cold. The teacher suggests that she find herself students, because now that she has shown her power to the world, there will be many opponents on her path that only she can defeat. The woman tells her to take 5 students who will share this burden with her, because she should not live her life alone as a teacher and find her love and start a family and be happy. Charlotte asks in surprise how she can do this, because she thinks that maybe she is stronger, younger, and smarter than the teacher, but she doesn't know how she can find it. Hearing this, the lady took the broom and asked if this was how she showed her modesty, and then wanted to hit the student, but she quickly ran away. The maid watching these ladies smiled and thought that they were as full of strength as always. The main character hid, and the teacher asked where she went. Much water has flowed under the bridge since that day, but the outstanding talent of Archmage Charlotte has surpassed the level of the first 8 circles of magic. And the students she trained were called geniuses of the century. Some called Charlotte a heroine who saved the world from the evil creation. Others considered her the great hope for magic. And even after all these achievements, her man eventually met his end. Charlotte thought that she was tired because her stupid students were so intrusive, and she didn't understand why it was so hard to escape from them. And who would have thought that they would put tracking magic in a ball? The girl understands that if they lose contact for a second, they make such a fuss as if the end of the world had come, and the lady does not understand how to tell her that she will soon die. The main character believes that, because of the blessing of the fairy king, she always looked young, and they have already forgotten how old she really is, and how old she turned this year, because it seems like 122. The lady understands that she has lived long enough, and everything in this world has its beginning and its end. And of course, her heart aches for her students, but she cannot take care of them forever, because each of them has their own path. And although she still worries about the youngest, she believes that an old woman like her cannot accompany them, but can only hope that they will live a good life and be able to fulfill their destiny. Charlotte reflects that she never thought she would die like this, and this would be her last spell. When she casts the spell, the mana stored in her body will burst out and fill the world, and her spirit will torture this land and become the breath of a new god. The main character does not understand whether there could be a more noble death than this, and believes that even the teacher would be pleased because she lived a worthy life. At that moment, a whirlwind of memories flashed through Charlotte's head. After all, when she plunges into eternal sleep, each of her students will receive a letter from her with her last will, and she is sure that they will be shocked, but hopefully will not be too sad. Charlotte thinks that the potato fries she had for dinner last night were delicious, but she also thinks that she would have stepped on the face of that horse-faced idiot who burned her research a couple more times. Before her death, the girl would like to fight Jeffrey again and win against him, and remembers that she forgot to pay the debt at the Traveler's Tavern, and everything else was fine. But there was one regret in Charlotte's life that she could not tell anyone about, and that regret was love. Charlotte had a very eventful life filled with magic battles and care for her students. But this girl endowed with wisdom and life knowledge had one regret because she never knew love as hot as a flame and gentle as a spring wind. The main character believes that she has never had any regrets in her life, and she is just a little sad about this one thing, and just a little bit. The man turns to His Majesty and says that a more thorough investigation needs to be carried out in the lands of Rodan, and asks him to think about this issue. At this time, the king saw that a letter had arrived to him, and for a moment he forgot about state affairs. The servant asks the master to pardon him because he did what he was ordered to do, and claims that they forced him. At this time, the master saw the letter, and it interested him very much. The girl with pink hair saw that the nest had fallen and asked the little chicks to sit quietly, and at that time, she saw a letter. At this time, the main character understands that this is the last path, and it seems to her that her dying spell worked, and she thinks that she is pleased, and also wonders if a person feels after death, because her body seems lighter than a feather, and she thinks that this is because her spirit left the body, and she can see with her right eye, as if she is still alive. Charlotte doesn't understand why she's still alive, and thinks that her magic didn't work, but she assumes that, even so, she would have died anyway. The girl was confused when she heard her own voice. Archmage Charlotte, at the age of 121, has dedicated her life to serving the world, and she believes that she has finally entered into eternal sleep. The disciples mourning their mistress say that now they will protect this world instead of her, and therefore let her not worry but rest in peace. At this time, the main character thought that she was counting on them, and then said goodbye. Charlotte thinks that everything should have been like this, but she thinks that the mana has left her body, which means that the spell definitely worked. She does not understand why she is still alive, and why her body is so strange, as if she became a child. The lady realizes that she really has become small, and cannot believe it. True magic begins with the will of a person who wants to fulfill the desire of the heart. The regret that she carried throughout her life. This little regret saved her life. It turns out that the reason for this was love. The guy with red hair asks what kind of love this is, and thinks it's just funny, because these people have never met His Excellency, and yet they continue to send him letters declaring their love. The girl with black hair asks if he is jealous, and the man claims that it is nonsense. The lady says that their distinguished archduke quickly gained his fame, and now they have what they have. The guy with red hair says that the further you go, the more confusing this strange situation becomes, and he thinks that he should quickly find a girl he likes and marry her, and he should have done this 50 years ago. The man claims that today I was a little girl, and said that I was looking for His Serene Highness the Archduke, but at the same time, I called him by name. He does not understand why this girl the size of a pea turned out to be such a rude girl. The guy says that her manner of speech was also very strange, and there was something generally strange about her. The little girl asks the young man where the nearest magic shop is, and wonders if he can tell her. The man looked at the girl in surprise, and just kept silent, and she doesn't understand why everything is so complicated. Suddenly, he answers that the girl should turn the corner there, and when she sees the main square, then go to the 3rd street. Hearing this, the main character thought that she had come all this way here, but still couldn't meet Jeffrey, and her mana rings were empty, so she couldn't use the detection spell and couldn't teleport to him either. The man says that she is on the 2nd floor of a house with a blue roof, and then asks the little girl if she can hear him. At this time, the girl thought that she got rid of her things before casting the spell, and now she has nothing and thinks that she needs to sell something to the magic shop to get money. The sweet lady thanks the gentleman and reflects on how it feels like she has returned from the beginning of her life's journey. Suddenly, the door with the guy falls on the man who told the girl where she needed to go. The knight asks the boy to repeat what he just said. Then he says that he is now in the land of knights. Klaus, and asks how he dared to say that there is a man stronger than their archduke, the master of the sword, Leuster. The guy claims that, of course, such a person exists, and that it is Charlotte the Archmage of the Marvel Empire, and there is no one stronger than her. The knight screams and says that he is a piece of shit, and asks how a resident of Klaus can say such horrible words. The guy says that he is first and foremost a magician, and only then a resident of the duchy. Watching them, the girl thought that they were really fighting over some stupidity. The knight claims that he is a traitor, and that he should not pollute the clean air of Klaus with his breath, and therefore let him get out of there to marvel. The guy asks why he should get out since he believes that he is a magician, but still a citizen of Klaus. The little girl asks what they did and orders them to quickly get down from there. And the man screaming asks what the little one said, and then orders her not to interfere in the affairs of adults and to stay away from there. At this time, the residents watched them and thought that they seemed to be arguing who was stronger, Archduke Leicester or Archmage Charlotte. They suggested that the boys get down from there, otherwise they would kill this nice young man. Charlotte screams and says that it's enough and let them go down. Hearing her, the men quieted down a bit, and at that time the girl took the door from the man. The knight asks in surprise, "What was that?" Because his body was just on its own, and he doesn't understand what happened, and then turns to the magician and asks if he just used a spell on him. Residents do not understand what happened, and it seems to them that the child just stopped a fight, and they think that adults should not behave like that in front of children. Archduke Louis asks the people what happened, because he thinks it was so noisy here just now. The little girl was surprised when she saw him. The gentleman asks His Majesty what happened, because he left right in the middle of the conversation, and it is difficult for a person in such poor health like him to keep up with him. Louister reports that he is certain that he just felt a familiar presence, and he wonders if he was mistaken. The knight turns to the Archduke and says that it is an honor to meet him, because he always wanted to ask him something during a personal meeting, and then asks what he thinks about the Archmage Marvel Charlotte. His Majesty asks why he should answer this question. The man heard there smiled and said that he was right, because everything was so obvious that there was no need to waste time answering. The knight says that he thinks so too, and always thought that it was even funny to put the names of the Archduke and the Archmage in the same row, and then asks how a simple mage can compare with a master of the sword, because he believes that it is not for nothing that they say that the sword is a force that has no equal in the world. The warrior wonders if some girl without a family or a name can stand in the same row with the Archduke, and he wants her to know the bitterness of her defeat. Hearing this, the gentleman grabs him by the face and tells him to watch his language, and then asks if he didn't want to become a knight. And he is sorry that his dream is not destined to come true, but it seems that he even trained his body, and therefore suggests listening to him carefully. The Archduke says that Klaus has no need of a worthless person like him. Watching this, the main character grabbed the gentleman by the cloak and said that it was enough. She asked Geoffrey what he was doing and whether he imagined himself a king or a god. The girl asks if he has fallen into senile dementia and why he is torturing a man because of some words. The gentleman replies that he only wanted to scare him because he is so young and says such terrible things. His Majesty lets the man go and says he was just playing with him, and then kneels down in front of the little girl and asks if she is a Lottie. The gentleman approaches the Archduke and asks if he has calmed down, and also inquires whether this girl is his daughter. Louis turns to the baby and says that her magical presence was so weak that he even thought he was mistaken, and then asks if it really is her. At this time, the residents watching them do not understand what is happening, because this child again stopped the fight, and they were surprised whether it was really Archduke Leicester. The gentleman asks the girl why she is so small, and takes her in his arms. She asks to let her go to the ground while she talks about it nicely. The woman says that this year bows with lace are in fashion, but if the bow is decorated with a precious stone, it will look even more wonderful. And then she offers to take a look, because the young lady is very beautiful in this dress, and asks if it is so. His Majesty looked at the baby and said that he liked her, and then said that he wanted to look at other models. The saleswoman says that they have prepared many dresses of different cuts. He says that this is excellent and orders to give a dress of each design. Charlotte objects and says that's enough, and then asks what he's doing, and reminds him that she said that any clothes would suit her. The young gentleman asks if she understands that he's seeing her as a child for the first time, and asks what's wrong if she tries on these dresses. The main character turns to the woman and claims that this will be enough, and then tells her that she can go. The Archduke thinks that she likes to cause trouble, and tells the saleswoman to leave them. The woman hearing this was surprised, and did not understand what it was, and she became interested in why this little girl allowed herself to address the Archduke as you. Louis asks the girl why she looks like that, because he couldn't contact her for a long time, considering the state of her mana. He doesn't think that she changed her appearance with the help of a spell, and he wonders what happened. Charlotte says that she thought that there were no regrets in her life because she lived a rather full life and thought that she had nothing left to strive for. But this turned out to be untrue because there was no love in her life. The gentleman asks what she means by this. The girl ate a candy and says that it was delicious, and he asks her to explain to him why there were no regrets in life and what love she is talking about, because she does not understand what this has to do with the fact that she became a child. The Archduke asks if she has already tried to kill herself. Hearing this, the main character thinks that he is a smart guy, and then explains that everything was a little different, and since it turned out that way, she wanted to leave her mana to the world. The young lady thinks that she has lived enough, and is a little tired of everything, and already thought that she had fallen into eternal sleep, but she found herself alive again. The little girl screams and asks why and what it is. He answers that his eyes sweat from time to time, and the girl asks in surprise what he is saying. Jeffrey asks if she really was going to kill herself without telling him, but the little girl objects and says that she didn't kill herself. The gentleman says that the next time she is going to die, she should tell him that he has also lived long enough in this world and therefore should plunge into eternal sleep with her. The Archduke asks if it's all because of the curse, and believes that it's all his fault because he was supposed to stop her that day but couldn't. The main character calms the man down and says that no one is to blame for this because it was her choice and only she should bear responsibility for the consequences. Jeffrey claims that this is just her Lottie and believes that she shouldn't have to bear all the hardships alone, and then asks why she can't at least rely on him, her close friend. Jeffrey's dearest friend, Tane Lewister. The little girl says that she made such a decision and wonders if magic doesn't start with the desire of the heart, since magic decided to rid her of her only regret and gave her this new appearance. Then she decided to live her new second life again. The gentleman asks if it turns out that her regret was love, and if she means love between a man and a woman, and then asks why they don't start with her manner of speaking like a little old lady. Hearing this, Lottie asks what's wrong and what's wrong with her manner of speech. At this time, a guy with blonde hair ran up to the coffin and said that he would find hers. The man with red hair asks His Excellency what is going on, and the gentleman says that he just has to answer the question, and then the girl asks if he remembers her. The guy says that she is the strange girl who came this morning. Hearing this, the gentleman smiled, and the little girl looked at him angrily. Jeffrey suggests forgetting about it and tells him to introduce himself, then says he has 3 seconds. The man says his name is Phaeton Sylvan, age 23 years old, unmarried third son of the Marquis, and currently one of the knights of the great Archduke Lewister, and he has sworn to serve his lordship until death. And his hobby is reading special skills in fencing, and he cannot eat spicy food, otherwise he is not picky about food. The little girl says that he like her cannot eat spicy food, and the gentleman says that he is coming, and then claps his hands and says that he congratulates her because he has just become the personal protector of the archmage, and therefore he is sure that he will cope. Hearing this, the Phaeton was surprised and thanked him. The Archduke says that he will then tell him the rest of the details of the work. The main character thought that this is how they found security for her, and the gentleman asks if she is really going to hide the truth from her students. Charlotte says that she will not tell about herself because she understands that they probably already received the letters with her last will. And now that her body has become like this and the mana has left her, they will not be able to find her trace and will think that she really has fallen into eternal sleep. Jeffrey says that if she thinks so, then it will be better. And the girl explains that they relied on her too much in the past, and believes that if they think that she died, then they can become independent and live relying on their own decisions. The Archduke tells the little girl that he thinks she doesn't know her students well. However, the most important thing is that she asked him for help, and for her sake, he will do anything and even be able to cope with her students. Lottie asks what else to do, and then threatens that, if he lays a finger on her students, she will kill him. The man says that he understands her, and then reports that his eyes have suddenly started sweating again. The main character says that she liked this person, and Jeffrey thinks that these are quiet lands in a remote rural area, and the name is Arya Lyson. His Majesty says that from this moment on, Archmage Charlotte becomes the daughter of Count Lyson, Arya Lyson, and then he says that he is glad that her eyes have healed and claims that in this life he will always be by her side and will do everything in his power to help her. The man says that as her best friend, he wants to wish her new life to be filled with happiness. At this time, the main character thought that perhaps this was the new chance that mana and magic gave her, and she believed that she would live not as an archmage who saved the world, and not as someone's teacher, but as an ordinary person. The girl asks what these little things are that look like ripe apples. Phaeton explains that these are Mrs. Arya's new friends, and then smiles and says that they are also his cousins. The Archduke asks if it is not wonderful to have new friends for a new life. The little girl with the red hair says that this girl just called them babies, and then claims that she is younger than them, and that is why she is a baby here. The gentleman reminds that he said that she really doesn't know her students well, and then he turns to him and suggests that he speak since he has already come. The silver-haired guy asks where Charlotte is. Jeffrey wonders if he's the one who should be asking her that question. The man explains that he hasn't been able to contact her lately and asks what happened to Lottie. He claims that if Lord Charlotte stopped in Klaus's lands, then it's impossible for the Lord not to know about it. The Archduke says that the youth has become ill-mannered lately, and even if he is his friend's student, his patience has its limits. And then he takes the sword and says that it is time to take up his upbringing. The girl with red hair says that it's all hers and claims that he promised last time, and the boy asks if she believed him and then says that it's time for her to stop eating because she will soon become a pig. The main character looked at them and said that there was no need to fight for food. Hearing this, the girl came up to her and hugged her and said that she was very good. The boy asks why she gave away her piece, because he thinks that his sister eats a lot anyway, and then he gave his plate with cake to the lady. Lottie says that it is not necessary and offers him to eat himself because he must eat a lot and grow big and tall. Hearing this, he says that she is really very strange, and then asks if her name is Arya Listen, and asks if he can just call her Arya. Hearing this, the girl thought that this was now her name, and she was thinking that maybe Jeffrey was right, because in her new life, she should also be a new person. The main character says that he can call her that, and reflects on the fact that she should now meet new people and live and relax carefree in a new place, and perhaps erase that regret by meeting the person destined for him by fate. However, the young lady understands that she needs to grow up a little first. At this time, the lady turns to His Excellency and asks in surprise what happened during the night. The man replies that considering that 3 of the Archmage's students came to him, everything is fine. The Archduke remembered that they asked where their teacher was, because they understood that he was with her until the end, and asked to tell what happened. The girl says that it seems to her that no one present here knows where the teacher is, and thinks that maybe something happened to her because she doesn't feel anything unusual about her presence, no mana, nothing at all, and she thinks that she really disappeared from this world. Another student asks what kind of nonsense she is talking about because she thinks that there is something and there must be something else. Jeffrey says that something really did happen to Lottie and asks if they could tell him more about it. The guy says he doesn't think his grandfather knows anything and then says he can't come to terms with it after this letter. The elf girl says that she will meet with Carcillion and thinks that maybe if they follow the teacher's path from Marvel, they will be able to find some clues. And the young man claims that he will find her, even if he has to turn everything upside down. The guy with silver hair claims that he will come back. The Archduke thought that he should hide her well, so that no one could find her, and believed that it would be better for them not to see each other for some time. 8 years later, the young master asks Lady Leeson to wait for him. He kneels down with flowers in his hands and says that his heart belongs to her from the moment they first met, and he asks her to accept his sincere intention to make her his wife. And at this time, the main character does not understand who he is and what kind of child he is, and then she remembers that she saw him in a literary circle, and it seems that he only recently came of age. Arya says that there is such a big gap between them that she is afraid that they will never be able to overcome it, and then claims that they cannot be together. And at that time, she thought that she had to leave. Since that time when the girl changed the death spell and woke up in a small body, 8 years have passed, and she lives in this body as Arya Lisen. The young lady realizes that from her movements to her manner of speech, she has completely honed her skills as an Arya, but she still cannot shake the feeling that her mind does not match her body. The guy screams and claims that he loves her and asks her to wait. And at that moment, she thinks that he is still a child. The girl with red hair asks why she was so late, and her brother suggests going faster. The main character says that she is already on her way, and at that time, she thought that it seems that in this life, love remains unattainable for her. In the capital of the empire, Klaus. The girl quickly runs down the street, and then she hid. The man approaches the miss and says that everything is fine, and suggests that she not be afraid, and then says that they are not bad people. Clueless with them, and then suggests introducing themselves. The guy says his name is Jerome Halford, and the grandfather with red hair says that her name is Judith. The main character says that her name is Arya. The man holds a flower pot in his hands and says that this is a small explanation for the new members of the Lulu Club, because this is a new type of flower that the magician Mervell bred 3 years ago. Judy says that it is a new fashion trend in event to grow Lulu. And then she asks the lady if it is not wonderful because it has magical properties and changes the color of its petals depending on the mood of the person who planted it. Grandpa says that when a person is happy, the petals are painted in a bright color, and when a person is sad, the flower darkens. But Lulu also has a romantic story connected to it. It happens very rarely, but if Lulu acquires a rich red color, this means that the person who planted it will meet the love destined for him by fate. The man suggests waiting a little, because he will now bring seeds for the beginners. Judy grabs the girl's hand and says that they will now go to a new place. And the man says that they should be careful, because the seeds are already planted in pots. The lady with red hair says that the girl hasn't been to the capital for a long time, and so they should have time for everything. Arya claims that they will stay for some time, and therefore believes that there is no need to rush. The little girl says that she is right, and believes that if she doesn't do anything, she will just sit in the room again. Arya says that they have been walking around the city for 10 days, and asks if they can take a little break, and suggests going in and eating cake, since there is a very good place nearby. The man wanted to grab the girl by the hand, but Judy noticed it in time, and did not let him do it, and then asked who he was. Arya tells her to let go because it is Lord Sylvan. The girl asks in surprise why he put on this cloak. The Lord praises the guys and says that they are great. The guy asks why he tried to sneak up on them like a thief. Sylvan explains that he needed to pass on the message without being noticed. The main character saw the carriage and realized that she needed to go to it. The gentleman, holding a huge bouquet of roses in his hands, says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. Lottie is surprised and asks if he is coming back from the party and what kind of flowers they are. The man explains that he took them from the road and asks if they don't smell wonderful and wonders if she wants them. The girl replies that she doesn't need it. Jeffrey says that she doesn't look well and asks what happened and also asks if she heard bad rumors. The little girl asks in surprise what rumors he is talking about, and the Archduke suggests that she forget about it and then asks if she likes Klaus's capital. Lottie says that it is a very peaceful and lively atmosphere and a nice city. He asks about love and wonders if she has found a love that can erase her regret. The man asks if that's not why she came to the capital. The girl replies that, not really, but he suggests that if you look closer, and then he gets closer and says that she doesn't know, but she suggests that he might be much closer than she thinks. The main character agrees with him and says that she just wanted to ask him about the former captain of the Knights Baron, because he is well over 90, and also wonders if he is married and asks if he can introduce her to him. Jeffrey replies that he died last year due to old age, and the lady says that she should probably be glad that she didn't die at her age and is still thinking about love. The Archduke tells her not to say anything because she just thought about people close to her. The young lady asks, "What about the Alphonse's finance ministers?" He screams and replies that his great-granddaughter just got married the other day. Lottie asks if this is true, and then says that her congratulations, and asks why he is yelling at her, and says that his trousers will get dirty and offers to sit normally. The main character looked at the guy in surprise and asked what was wrong and what happened, and he answered that he just felt sad about something. Charlotte wonders if there has been any news from Marvel about her students. He explains that Marvel's sky is as peaceful as Klaus's sky. At this time, the guy runs away from the knights, but they suddenly surrounded him and said that if he continues to run away, he will only make his situation worse and therefore ask him to follow them. The young man thinks this is stupid and then asks why he is wasting his energy chasing him. Judy, when she saw the girl, asks if she has already talked to her brother Sylvan, but suddenly saw that she forgot her gloves at the club, and they were from a limited collection. Lottie says she will bring them, and the girl with red hair offers to go together. The main character objects and says she will go herself because she wants to be alone for a while. The lady claims that she will be back soon and invites them to go and eat some cake. When the girl left, Judy said that she looked so exhausted, and her brother thought that it was all because of her, because he thought that all she did was drag people around with her. Judy says it's his fault because he suggested going to the Lulu Growing Club. Suddenly they see the Capitol's security and don't understand what's going on. At this time, the main character thinks about, what if she comes to the Capitol? She will be able to find out news about her students because she is interested in whether everything is okay with them and thinks that probably nothing special is happening. The girl thinks to think positively, but when she went inside, she realized that it was very quiet and thought that everyone had already left. At this time, the lady tells the girl that there was a kidnapping, and the townspeople are so worried about what is happening. Judy asks in surprise if she wants to say that the guards were in such a hurry because the kidnapper was somewhere nearby. Jerome says that they need to go after Arya because he is worried because she left alone. And the woman asks in surprise if it is true that they did not know anything and explains that, in fact, such a fuss is because, according to rumors, the suspect was Dan Monty from Marvel. The lady asks the guys if they have heard of him and then says that Dan Monty is the leader of the Black Moon. At this time, Dan Monte asks the main character if she knows about Charlotte. An outstanding archmage, Marvilla de Monte, is Charlotte's third student. Hearing the question, the main character hid her face with the help of a cloak. After all, she saw that the man was holding a flower in a pot in his hands, and then she quickly runs away. The guy wanted to get closer to the stranger, but she pushed him or took advantage of the moment and ran away. He doesn't understand what just happened, because when he fell, he broke the table and the stranger was gone. Judy, when she saw the girl, asks, screaming what happened to her. She answers that nothing is out of the ordinary and suggests going home, and Judy is asked if she saw the kidnapper. Haven't recently, and these are very bad people who take away citizens regardless of their age and gender. The girl says that they can't be caught because there is a very powerful person behind these crimes. Hearing this, the main character wonders who the suspect is. Jerome replies that it is Dan Monty and asks if Arya knows who he is, and then says that he is Charlotte's third student. The guy asks how ordinary guards can grab him, although he thinks that Archduke Louis is capable of it. Judy does not understand why a resident of Marvel kidnaps people here, Klaus, and her brother says that there are probably reasons behind this that they know nothing about. The young man asks Arya what happened because he saw her surprised look, and at this time, she does not understand how this stupid Dan kidnaps people in Klaus. 30 years before a lady with black hair turns to Mrs. Eleanor and tells her that there has been another explosion, and it seems that she cannot control this terrible demonic red liquid that flows in his veins, and then asks how much longer she must suffer next to him. The lady thinks that this child is a real devil. Then the main character decided to come to this guy, and when she knocked on the door, she heard a scream that everyone should get out. However, she does not pay attention to his words and says that she is entering. When the lady entered the room, she saw that everything was turned upside down, and even the furniture was broken, and the boy hid under the table. Charlotte asks if he is very scared, and then says that she thought that the danger had already passed, but she was wrong, and fortunately, everyone is safe, because he tried so hard to cope with his powers, and he succeeded. The main character apologizes for being late, and then turns to the boy and asks him to go to her, and also suggests that he hurry up because his teacher's hands are already hurting. Dan ran up to the lady and hugged her and asked if it was true that no one was hurt. The lady replied that everything was fine, and he asked if that meant he was not the devil. Charlotte says, "Of course not, but the baby says it's very good." The young lady says that this is probably a misunderstanding. Hearing this, the man asks what she is talking about. The lady says that nothing and explains that she is just talking to herself. The lady asks the butler if he has ever heard of Kidnappings in event. He replies that he does not know the details and then asks what happened. The main character realized that Jeffrey, this man, definitely knew about this, but did not tell her anything, and believes that she should know for sure. But first, she must investigate everything. Charlotte put on a black cloak and decided to go out into the city, but realized that, judging by the number of guards, the city's security had been strengthened, but she went out unnoticed. The lady thought that there really was a kidnapper operating in the capital, and she wondered where he had gone. People in raincoats grabbed the man and said that they were not bad people, but at that time he lost consciousness. The guy asks what he will say, because he thinks that the hair is quite similar and understands that it would be nice if the eye color matched. And his friend claims that he is not a woman. The guy turns to the master and says that he thinks there is someone else here. Hearing this, he understood and went around the corner and saw a girl there, and then asks how Miss is doing. The student says that if there is a witness, then it can create a headache for them later, and the stranger asks to spare her. They tell her not to be afraid, because they will not hurt her, and think that it is simply somehow inconvenient, because she does not fit the criteria by which they select people. The man asks what they will do, and at this time, the main character comes up to them and says that, firstly, they will apologize for scaring the young lady and then send her home, and they themselves will voluntarily surrender to the guards and receive the punishment they deserve. Hearing this, the guy asks in surprise who she is, and Lottie, without thinking twice, punches him in the forehead and asks if they are planning to kidnap people because she can't believe that they have stooped so low. The lady says that she never taught them this. Gilhart, the head of the Black Moon, asks how she knows her name. Hearing this, the main character thought that if the boss himself was doing this, then the order was given personally, and she wondered why he did this, and he offers to kidnap her because she also wants to participate in the kidnapping. Hearing this, Gilhart smiled, and the assistant tells the chief that this girl is crazy and asks if they should take care of her. He objects and says that it is not necessary and suggests taking another look at her because this girl has golden eyes and wheat-colored hair that radiates a soft silver light. Gilhart claims that it has been a long time since he saw such perfection, and then says that they are just looking for a person, and she just fits the description perfectly. The man approaches the miss and asks her to allow him to take advantage of her generous offer and kidnap her. Then he offers to go with them. The gentleman smiled and said that this is exactly what he told them, because he couldn't imagine why they needed an old man like him. The girl says that she also told them almost the same thing and asked them why they would take such a useless person like her. And they answered that there are no useless people in this world, and the life of every person has its own value. Hearing this, the main character thought that she did not understand what kind of strange situation this was, and observing the easy casual conversation, she believed that they had really been kidnapped. Charlotte believes that they have gathered here not one or two people and does not understand why they needed all these people. The lady remembers that they then said that they were looking for a person who fits her description and understands that she has a bad feeling. At this time, the head of the Black Moon enters the room and asks for a moment of their attention, and then apologizes for making them wait. The man first thanks them for their cooperation and offers to move on to explaining what is happening, and then asks if any of them have a pet, a large dog or a cow. The girl says that she has a cat at home, and the other girl says that she has a dog. Gilhart explains that they should just know that this situation may resemble the situation with their pet, because he may have a hot temper, but he will not attack his owner and will never bite him, and therefore they have nothing to worry about. The gentleman suggests that for their safety, they stand in a single row. At this time, the main character saw Dan, and then hid behind a woman, and she became interested in what was wrong with him, because she understood that he looked completely unimportant, but felt that his mana was in a calm state. The man checked each person and put a bandage with a golden stone on one of his eyes. However, no girl came up, and it was the turn of the main character. Dan looked at the lady, who at that moment closed her eyes. Gilhart asks if he is sure that this lady is not her, and suggests trying to put on a blindfold. The gentleman suggests that the next people wear a blindfold, and apologizes for the inconvenience caused. Charlotte realizes that he is looking for people who are like her. The girl looked at Dan, who grabbed the man and asked if he was a teacher, and the grandfather claims that he is a wonderful young man, and his assistant says that today they will choose him. At this time, the main character does not understand what he is doing, because the grandfather does not look like her at all because he is a man. The gentleman suggests sending everyone else home and apologizing for the inconvenience. Dan tells the man calling him teacher that he can't sleep. The helpers ask people to keep all this a secret and take these gifts with them, and also wish them a safe journey. When the lady was about to leave, the head of the Black Moon turns to her and says that it is strange because he thought that it would be her, and then says that they have been looking for one person for a very long time. The man says that of all the people they chose, she fit the description the best, but it seems he was wrong. He thinks that the grandfather will stay here for a while, and then they will safely escort him home. Gilhart tells her not to worry because they won't do anything weird to him, and then tells her that the leader sleeps very poorly, so he needs someone to tell him stories so he can sleep. And if they didn't do that, he wouldn't be able to sleep at all. The lady asks why he is telling her this, and the guy replies that he is probably just very sad that she was not chosen, and then wishes them a safe journey, and says that if she wants to report them to security, she is free to do so because she understands that it will not change anything anyway. When leaving, the main character threw away a bag of gold coins. A lady walks into a store, and the salesperson says that they are already closed today. The girl asks if they know who the archmage Charlotte is. The woman says that of course she does, and then asks how it is possible not to know such a great person. The main character is interested in whether there are rumors about Charlotte's 5 students, and asks to tell her if they know anything. The lady says that her first student is the Emperor of Marvel, and 6 years ago they only talked about him because the Emperor gathered the magicians of the Empire, and with their help invaded Klaus. The Emperor announced that he was looking for one person, and she thought that this would lead to war, and the whole country was only talking about this. And then he asks where the lady was at that time, that she did not know about this incident. The woman says that it is just a rumor, and then it is reported that the second student is the keeper of the Pantheon. She tried to resurrect someone, and as a result of casting a spell, she destroyed half of the sacred forest. And if she had not stopped her research, she would most likely have destroyed the entire world. The third disciple is Dan Monte, the leader of the Black Moon, and this man is simply the product of evil. And it seems like something happened 8 years ago, and then he went crazy. Before that, he was committing atrocities all over the continent, and now he moved to Klaus. And then he asks if all the fuss in this city isn't because of him. The lady says that nothing is said about the 4th disciple, and she heard something about the 5th disciple because they say that he fell into eternal sleep, because he went into the devil's domain where people cannot go only to find someone, and there he died. The man asks Lady Laysan in surprise how she got in here and what she's doing here at such a late hour. The girl turns to the Archduke, and he tells the servants that everything is fine and they can go. The main character reports that she did not hear any rumors, and even if we take into account that she was in the village, the fact that she did not hear anything about these incidents or about the countless rumors means only one thing: that he personally had a hand in this. Jeffrey agrees with her and says that she is right because it was him. And then he says that her students are not little children who need her constant care and protection, and then reminds that she herself said that she wants to start a new life. The Duke informs her that upon learning of her desire, he also wanted her to live for herself. The girl asks to answer only one question and asks if any of these rumors are true. The man says whether they are true or not, she should not worry about it because she believes that this is all an event of days gone by, and there is no point in resorting to magic for the sake of this nonsense. The gentleman claims that she knows that in her condition she cannot use magic, and the girl claims that this is why she is now using her fists and asks him nicely, and he be so kind as to answer as necessary. Jeffrey shows a pile of papers and says that this is all the information he has collected about the activities of her students over the past 8 years. Charlotte tells him not to mock her, and the gentleman claims that he is not mocking her, but simply put everything in order as it should be. The main character does not understand what these scoundrels have been doing all this time, since there is a lot of material on them. Jeffrey says that he was a little surprised too, because he had to work hard to make sure she didn't find out, and then he apologizes and explains that he is looking for a way out. The girl asks what he is talking about, and the gentleman answers that it is about the curse and says that it has not disappeared, because she tried to kill herself without telling them anything because she knew that this truth would hurt them. The Archduke says that he will not allow this to happen, and no matter how long it takes, he will find a way out and asks not to worry about anything until then. Charlotte says that she did say that she wanted to live a new life, but that doesn't mean that she'll abandon her students to their fate. He says that he knows that all this new life and talk about finding true love is just an excuse to avoid showing herself to her students. The gentleman suggests simply telling him the truth sincerely and without embellishment. And at that time, the lady thought that she had told him the truth. Sylvan turns to His Excellency and says that he does not know why he does not answer and does not leave the room. But now he will have to personally go to him to make sure that everything is okay. When the man saw the gentleman, he asked in surprise if he had been attacked last night. He replied that the greatest magician in the world was coming to him, and his life was still flowing in his veins. The assistant explains that he meant the life of the attacker, and they must interrogate him immediately and find out who gave the order. The Archduke orders him to stop shouting and then tells him to leave because he wants to be alone. At this time, the gentleman thought that she hated him again and thought that it would be wonderful if there were only them in this world. The maid tells Lady Arya that she got up early today and then says that she came to put fresh flowers in her room and asks if she should bring her some warm tea. The lady thanks and refuses and then says that she will go out for a short while on personal business and let her tell this to Rum and Judy if they ask. The maid asks if she is going alone and then says that she will tell the butler to prepare the carriage, but the lady refuses and says that it is not necessary. The maid thought that this was strange and asked if something had happened. The main character believes that she lived too carefree and does not understand how she could believe that only because she would pass on her will, that they would easily accept her death. After all, she never thought how difficult it would be for these children without her. Charlotte believes that, although slowly, her mana rings are gradually being restored, she thinks that the children should know what happened and accept her death because she disappeared from this world, and they have the strength to live without her. The lady thinks that the first thing she will do is stop these kidnappings since they were here last night, and assumes that most likely they have already left this place and, of course, left no traces. The girl became interested in how she should track them down and where they could have gone. Charlotte saw the man and thought that they were still here, and she became interested in how Klaus's public order violators behave. But she realized that this was too strange. The main character turns to the young man and says that she feels like she is lost, and then explains that she was just looking for the Louisiana Memorial Park. The guy grabs the girl by the shoulders and says that she is just in time, and calls her a sweet victim who came into their hands herself. Suddenly, a man in a black cloak appears and attacks him. Charlotte wondered why he popped up so suddenly, and thought that he must have been following her. She turns to the man and asks if he is the person who has been following her for the past few days. Hearing this, the man in black clothes disappeared. The guy saw a man lying on the ground, screaming and asking what was going on. The lady explains that she was just passing by and saw an unconscious man. The young man asks why she doesn't go with them and tell them the details. At this time, the main character thought that she should leave, but nevertheless, she decided to go. The girl was tied up, and the stranger said that they were lucky today because they could get a good amount of money for them. The man asks what's wrong with Darren and why he hasn't come to his senses. Charlotte understands that something is wrong because it is obvious that these people are not from the Black Moon. And suddenly, she heard a cry that they are greeting Mr. Dan Monte. The gentleman screams and asks if everything is ready, and also wonders why they are moving so slowly. He tells them to get off their asses and get to work, because they should be on their way already. The man who was sitting next to the girl says that it was Dan Monte, and believes that he was really kidnapped by members of the Black Moon. The man says that everything is correct, because they are the Black Moon from Marvel. And this man is the third student of the archmage Charlotte, Mr. Dan Monte, and therefore suggests not to even think about escaping. At this time, the main character thought that it turns out that they are pretending to be him and his order, and therefore committing all sorts of atrocities. Charlotte saw that the men were dragging a man, and she recognized him as Dan. The robber offers to throw him to the others, and thinks that they are lucky to have gained another man without any effort. The main character does not understand what is wrong with him and assumes that his people forgot about him and left him here. The man screams and tells her to move because they have to get out of here before the guards arrive. The lady looked at the guy and thought that he had simply fallen asleep. The lady remembered that when Julian brought her boy, She said that no matter what she did with him, he did not move, and it seemed to her that he really died, and then asked whether to throw him out. The teacher says that he did not die, and tells her not to talk about the fact that she will throw the man away like an unnecessary thing. Charlotte says that Julian is an adult, and therefore asks her to take care of Dane because this child suffers from great fear. And the girl says that during his rare sleep, he looks like he is dead, only because he usually cannot sleep at all. The robber suggests tying up Dan because he believes that the man has woken up. Meanwhile, the main character turns to him and says that right in front of him, there are people who are pretending to be him and his order, and asks what he is going to do. She wonders why he allowed them to tie him up, and she wonders if he really doesn't understand what is going on there. The girl asks if he is just going to watch for a while to properly assess the situation. The robbers inform the master that they are ready, and then they put the people in the cart. After a while, the man announces by shouting that they have arrived and tells the people to come inside. Charlotte thinks that this place looks like a prison, and the people who met them greeted Mr. Monty. The lady realizes that this is a huge underground prison, and she thought that they are a small organization of criminals who imitate the order. The lady believes that if their criminal activity in Avant has reached such a scale, it means that there is a much more influential figure behind them. The man screams and asks Mr. Monty to let him go, because he has a sick child waiting for him at home, and he has no one else. Monty tells him to shut up, and then seduces him. Whether that child dies or not is not his problem. And so he suggests hiding in the farthest corner of the cell and shutting up. The man says that he only managed to save up money for the medicine, and if he doesn't take it, the child might not survive, and he's only 5 years old, and he might die without the medicine, and therefore asks to let him go to him, and then begs. Monte says to open it, but at this time the girl does not understand what he has planned. The man thanks the gentleman, but suddenly feels a strong blow. The mercenary claims that he told him to shut up and sit quietly in his cage, and claims that it is his own fault for not listening. He asks what to do with them if they are spineless slugs who only listen when they are writhing in pain. The robber grabs the man and asks if he really thought he would let him go because of her snotty story, and then says that she will have to remind him who he is. The main character turns to Dan with her thoughts and says that if he doesn't do something sooner. And at this time, the man speaks screaming so that everyone would prick up their ears and remember that he was given to Monte. But suddenly, he heard laughter and asks who dared to laugh at such a moment. The guy in black clothes asks for forgiveness and says that he is guilty, and then explains that it is just incredibly funny so much that he could not control himself. And at that moment, the chains from his hands broke. The bandit screams and asks what is going on, because he thinks that these shackles were made of the steel of the law. And Dan asks who gave them permission to commit all sorts of atrocities, pretending to be them, and then claims that they are too insignificant, and with the help of magic envelopes the bandits. Monty says that they weren't careful, and no one could track them to this place, and then asks who is behind this, and who ordered them to commit these crimes. At this time, the mercenary could not say anything, but only writhed in pain. And the gentleman smiled and asked if he had not claimed that useless slugs only obey when they are exhausted from pain. Dan turns to the mister, and then breaks his shackles, and asks if he wants to hit him for hitting him, but the man refused. The robber asks if they are complete idiots, and why the hell they are standing there like statues, and suggests that his servants move and grab this man. The mercenary tells the master that their bodies are not moving. Gilhart asks the guys if they took on too much when they decided to pretend to be such a powerful order as their Black Moon, especially considering that they have no powers or abilities. The assistant asks what to take from them, because he thinks that this is not Marvel, and where such a magnificent order could have come from. He orders to seize everyone, because it seems that this is their only refuge. Dan grabs the man by the shirt and asks who ordered this operation, and who is behind them. He replies that he was just doing what he was told, because he was told that they would be able to carry out their business without interference. The gentleman asks who he is talking about now. A man with red hair approaches the miss and says that they have met again, and asks to let him help her untie the shackles. He asks if she has been kidnapped again, and thinks that this is some kind of hobby of hers. The robber says that he sprinkled the earth with the blood of your teacher. He was going to revive him in this world, but he can't find it anywhere. Hearing this, the man does not understand what is happening, and thinks that he is saying this spell, and the main character understands that this is a demonic language. She pulled out her sword and hit the stick that the robber was holding. The mercenary claims that he will tell them everything, but at this time, the girl thought that his mana was not stable. The assistant turns to the leader and says that this is some kind of madness and suggests that everyone get out of here because the whole building could collapse. Gilhart turns to the lady and says that of course he understands that she is a special girl, and then asks if she really wants to die there, and therefore asks her to go to a safe place, because he believes that her curiosity can destroy her, and therefore she must leave immediately and run as far away from here as possible. Charlotte tells him to take all the people and try to get them out as unnoticed as possible, and when he gets out, he should not forget to take all these scum with him, and she will stay there for a little while. Sylvan asks the lady what she is saying, and if she is crazy, she replies that she will explain everything later, and the man claims that she does not understand at all what situation they are in, and thinks that she cannot help here. The Lord offers to take a look, and then asks what she can do with the archmage of the 6 circles, who has lost control of himself. And he does not know why the leader entered this state, but he understands that now no one will stop him. And if she values her life, then he conjures her to run from here as far as possible. The main character asks if he is suggesting that she leave this idiot to her fate. He claims that all he can do now is wait for the leader to calm down and come out of this state, and tells her to stop being stubborn. However, the girl objects and tells him to let her go before she hits him. The man with red hair says that it seems that their eyes just met, and that means that as soon as he counts to 3, she should run. And if he dies, he asks to pray for the repose of his soul. The lady tells him to stop talking nonsense because he's had enough, and then she goes up to Dan and grabs his hand. She tells him to stop yelling and breathe calmly. Charlotte says that he is very sensitive to mana now, and therefore does not use magic and simply suggests leaving slowly and quietly so that this child can calm down. The main character recalls that one day a woman called her and said that she was looking forward to the day when she could meet her. The lady offers to report the situation, and the woman says that it is all her fault because she committed a great sin, and the blood of demons flows in the veins of this child. The lady says that she knew she had to get rid of him right away, but now he has turned into a terrible demon who craves red liquid and the pain of people. She would rather he had never been born into this world, and so she asks him to have mercy on her and kill this child. The archmage claims that in this world there are no children who should not have been born, and asks if she doesn't see that this child is crying. At this time, the main character thought that she does not see life in his eyes, and it seems to her that he is really about to explode. She knows that since he grew up, this has never happened, and she wondered if he is really suffering so much. Charlotte wonders if she can calm him down in this state, and if not, then she has no other choice but to... The lady grabs Dan by the shirt and mentally asks him to remember her. The main character thought about the first meeting with him. She called him a sweet child because she was told that his name was Dan and he was born with great power. However, she sees that he is not yet ready to control her and asks if it was hard for him. The archmage says that until his body and mind become strong, he asks to allow her to support him and help him in everything, and then says that if he is with her and nearby, he will no longer suffer. The lady claims that next to her, his heart will be calm, and he will not have to be afraid of his strength because she is 1,000,000 times stronger than him and will be able to stop any of his attacks, and therefore he will have no reason to cry because he will not hurt anyone again. The girl hugs the boy and says that he should remember this flow of great mana, this voice and this warmth, well. At this time, the main character thought that if there was still sadness in him that she had inflicted on him during their first meeting, and when she touched the guy, she wondered if it had worked. Dan bowed his head to the girl, and she thought that he looked a bit like a big dog, and said that the baby shouldn't be sad. The man asks why now it seems to him that the tunnel is collapsing due to the blast wave. Sylvan says that everyone has left and only they are left, and then he turns to Miss, and she says that she asked him to stop shouting. The man asks how he cannot scream in such a situation, since she said that magic cannot be used. When the guys saw the gentleman, they were scared, because they didn't understand why he was so angry. But the main character says that everything is fine because she is nearby. At this time, the girl thought that if she could get through to him, she would be able to calm him down with the mana that she had. And then she went up to him and called him a child and invited him to come to her. Watching her, the men thought she was crazy because they wondered where she saw someone who looked like a child. And when the gentleman approached her, they realized that she was addressing him. Sylvain looked at the gentleman in surprise and became interested in who this girl was. Lottie thinks that this is great and reflects on the fact that despite the noise around him, his attention is completely focused on her, and therefore he believes that the seal is not yet completely destroyed. The lady turns to Gilhart and then tells him that he can now use magic and check if there is anyone left here, and then quickly leave from there, and also reminds him not to forget to take this man with him since he is still alive. The girl turns to the other students and says that now they will come out of here and create a magical barrier at the entrance to the cave. Lottie says that she thinks a 2-phase Fryson spell will be enough, and once they reach the peak, they will have to maintain the spell's power at level 4, so that the shockwave from what is happening does not break out. She suggests that they use more magic. The guy turns to the head of the Black Moon, and he says that they should do what she said and let both go out first. At this time, he thought that even in Marvel, not many magicians know about the spellfausen, and she told about its use in such detail. Gilhart asks how she is. Miss replies that she will stay there for a little while and will lead out their leader, and therefore suggests not to worry and just leave. The man objects and says that they will follow them right away, and the girl insists that he leave. He says that he understood, and therefore suggests not to delay and that they go out right away. And at that time, he thought that this was the last one, and he was wondering if everything would be okay with them. Charlotte grabbed the leader by the hand and said that when a magician takes his last breath, his soul, which is stored in mana, fills the world, and therefore the same thing will happen to her, and she assumes that most likely he will not be able to remember everything that she tells him now. The girl says that she hopes that his subconscious will remember this, and this knowledge will make him even stronger. Lottie says that everything has its beginning and its end, and every person's life is filled with meetings and separations. This life experience leaves their memory and precious memories, and she would like that she too would remain in his life only as a precious memory. The main character claims that even if she is not next to him, everything will be fine, and he is no longer a little child because he believes that he has learned a lot and can do a lot. And now that she is gone, there are many good people left next to him. Charlotte touches the leader's face and says that this is why everything will be fine with him, because now he has become so strong that he no longer needs a teacher. Hearing this, the gentleman grabs the girl by the hand and says that he needs her, and says that he is not at all okay, and calls her teacher, and then begins to cry. When the guy hugged the girl, she thought that he was behaving like a stupid child, and at that moment, an explosion occurred, and people saw that the entire tunnel had collapsed. Gilhart does not understand why they did not come out then, but he believes that the leader definitely survived, and he became interested in what happened to the girl, since it seems that she is also a magician, and also a very strong one. Suddenly, a girl came out who was leading the leader. She says that he lost consciousness, or just fell asleep, and at that time, a man in black clothes was watching them. The man says that this is the last place she was, and that all traces of the teacher and her mana disappear here. But he does not understand why she decided to come to this cold and lonely place. Dan screams and calls the teacher because he wants to tell her something, but the ghost says that she is dead, Charlotte Eleanor, and he will never see her again. The guy says that the leader hasn't slept for so long in a long time, and his friend thinks that it's because he lost consciousness this time, and asks if this isn't too much, since he thinks that these are forced precautions, since one movement by the leader would be enough, and this entire room would turn to dust. The leader of the Black Moon turns to the guys and asks if they are here again, and then states that the leader is not a monkey in a zoo, and therefore suggests that they stop coming here because the leader needs to rest. Jody turns to the main character and asks her to tell her what she did alone all day yesterday, and her brother says that he is also interested because the butler said that when she arrived, she was covered in dust and dirt and looked unwell. Arya says that she has to tell them something, and that they should stay away from her for a while, because something is going on, and she doesn't know anything about it. The main character understands that she cannot expose these carefree children to danger, and she must first find out everything and collect enough information. Judith asks in surprise where she got such thoughts, and also asks if she doesn't like the capital and if she wants to return home. Jerome thinks that since they arrived in the capital, something strange has been happening to her, and she is always lost in her thoughts, and then asks what is bothering her. And if she doesn't say anything, they will worry about her. At this time, the butler enters the room and tells Milady that she must go outside and see this with her own eyes. The girl saw a carriage that brought a lot of flowers, and the Archduke who came to pick her up. Sitting in the carriage, the main character asks if he has gone crazy, and what kind of show he is putting on there. And the gentleman asks if she is still angry with him. The girl insists that he stop this and asks why he brought all these knights. Louister says that he had a little trouble, and the first thing he did was rush to her to tell her everything. The lady asks what happened to Togo, and whether she should praise him for it. The gentleman says he will be very grateful. Lottie says she has no time for his jokes, because they have a big problem, and it seems to her that the demons pursuing Doom have returned again. Hearing this, the Archduke is surprised, and asks if she has any evidence, and then asks if this has anything to do with the collapse of the cave in Avant. Lottie says that as she thought he already knows, because those involved in the incident have already been captured by the Order of the Black Moon, so they need to conduct an investigation, and then asks why he sent a man to follow her. Louister asks in surprise what kind of person she is talking about, and she asks if he really didn't send her. The man claims that if he had decided to do something like that, he wouldn't have trusted anyone with it. At this time, the main character realized that it was not Jeffrey who sent him, and she wonders who it was. Then, she thinks about how next time she will need to catch him. And no matter how insignificant this matter may seem, now she cannot let anything slide. Lottie says it's already noon, and she has an appointment. Charlotte said that when their leader wakes up, they should tell him that she will be waiting for him tomorrow at noon in the Nest of Wings on the Blue Square. Gilhart says that she asked to tell him, but didn't say anything about them not being able to accompany him, and the leader never cared whether they were following him or not, and thinks that he probably doesn't even know they are here, since he doesn't seem like himself at all after waking up. At this time, the girl tells him that in any case, he should not even think about interfering in her affairs, and therefore asks him to return home. The Archduke, surprised, asks if she really is going to meet him. Lottie says that they have already met, and he asks in surprise if this guy recognized her. The girl explains that yesterday they met face to face for the first time, but most likely because of the explosion, he will not be able to remember anything. Hearing about the explosion, Jeffrey is surprised and asks if that means that yesterday's destruction was caused by the explosion of Dana Monte. And he also asks the girl if she used magic yesterday. The main character explains that she knows better than anyone what state her body is in, and therefore believes that now he should worry not about her, but about death. The Archduke asks if he reveals her, will she reveal herself to the other students, and then says that one glance was enough for him to recognize her. The girl says that because it is he who is towards her, no matter how she looks, he will always recognize her in any guise. And at that time, she thought that, of course, the most powerful sword master of the continent should be so insightful and sensitive to mana. Mana is proof of the life of the magician. Lottie understands that, even if they recognize her, they will never be able to confirm their guesses. After all, her mana is now so weak and unstable that it cannot even be compared with the one she was endowed with in her previous life. Charlotte reminds him that he said that he came to tell her about a problem, and the gentleman says that it is such an insignificant problem, and it concerns her first student. The lady asks if he is talking about Carcillion. He replies that he is talking about the Emperor of Marvel, and then says that he has decided to declare war on Klaus. The man smiled and said that on such wonderful sunny days, the teacher always said that this is the best weather for a falling meteorite. Charlotte reflects on the fact that she has lived a long life and has had to make choices countless times, and she thought that in most cases she chose the right path, and thinks about whether she made the right decision when she met her death. The main character reflects on the fact that for some reason it seems to her that she has not thought everything through properly, and understands that she cannot appear before Dan as Charlotte Eleanor. The girl approaches the leader and says that she is Arya, and then shakes his hand, and he says that he is Dan Monte. At this time, the young lady does not understand why he is staring at her like that, and thinks that he might drill a hole in her head with his gaze. And then she says that there are so many people on the first floor, and no one here. The leader says that he asked everyone to leave. Hearing this, the girl became interested in how long ago he came here, and then says that she understands that he has accumulated a lot of questions for her, and asks how long he is going to hold her hands. Dan replies that he was simply afraid that she would run away from him, but the lady claims that she will not run away, and then asks if he really remembered what happened yesterday. The man explains that he doesn't remember the details, and then asks if she saved him then. Hearing this, Lottie jumped up, and when she looked out the window, she saw a man watching them. He asks if she is going to grab him, and the lady objects, and says that he should grab him. The main character does not understand what it was, because she just felt an incredibly strong presence, and thinks that it was as if it was screaming that he was here, and understands that a lot of time has passed since she felt something like this. Charlotte thinks that if it was somehow connected with the death, she would have found out immediately. However, she thinks that if she grabs him, she will know for sure. Dan tells the stranger in black to stop. Seeing this, Gilhart says that he will follow the girl and let them go to the leader, and if there is city security there, then let them not aggravate the situation. The leader of the Black Moon became curious about what was going on and who the leader was pursuing. At this time, the main character thought that she would first finish this story with Dan, and then, having clarified the situation in Marvel, meet with Carcillion. Lottie realizes that she doesn't know how everything turned out this way, but her quiet life could end because she can't get rid of this strange feeling. Gilhart asks, "Miss, what happened and what she is doing here?" And she is surprised and asks why he is following her. At this time, Dan tells the stranger that it is better not to waste his strength aimlessly, and it is better to immediately allow him to be captured, and also asks why he was watching them, and was clearly hostile. However, the stranger did not answer, and the leader said that he understood that he was not going to answer. The man in black clothes saw that the leader wanted to hit him, so he jumped up and quickly ran away. And at that time, Dan thought that he was some kind of strange guy. And if he wanted to escape, he would have chosen a better tactic. The leader realizes that it doesn't look like he was going to fight him, because he's a mage, and judging by his strange smell, his magic isn't working properly. Then he uses magic to tie him up and asks who he is. Dan did not hear anything in response, only saw stone jowls that appeared suddenly and looked like animals. The assistants do not understand what it is. And at this time, the man in black clothes ran away, and the leader noticed this. At this time, Gilhart turns to the main character and says that he understands that this may sound strange, but after what happened yesterday, he cannot stop thinking about her. The man says that he knows nothing about her at all, but he feels that if he doesn't say it now, he will regret it, and wants to ask only one thing, and then asks if she wants to become a new member of their Black Moon. The head of the Black Moon saw a flicker, and at this time, the main character went to pursue the man in the black cloak. When she jumped off the roof, he held out his hands to her. The girl says she doesn't know what he's trying to do, but apparently he wasn't running away from her, and knew she was already close enough. Lottie wonders who sent him and why he is following her, but having heard nothing, she realizes that these questions are pointless, and then asks if he can summon the darkness and control it, since she believes that this is the same as revealing her essence. The girl came closer to him and took off the hood, but she still couldn't see his face. She says that even after so many years, there are people who are ready to follow death, and then asks what he knows about her, and also wonders if he has anything to do with what happened yesterday. Charlotte claims she doesn't know how much he knows, but wonders why he doesn't think twice about revealing all the information. The main character saw silver hair and says that he can do something like that, but at that time the stranger runs away. And at that time, the girl thought that this couldn't be, because he couldn't be here, and the man in black clothes blurred, and she realized that she couldn't see well, because she started to stagger, and her head hurt, and she fell. The guy tells the leader that they have the situation under control, and then reports that some buildings and the road were damaged, but no one was seriously injured. Dan praises them for doing a good job. At this time, the knights turn to Dan Monte and say that they are again causing trouble in Avant, and believe that this time they even summoned the darkness, and wonders how he dared to do this in Klaus, because he believes that even if he is an archmage, Marvel can't do something like that. The knight says that this was to be expected, since he is only half a demon, but the demonic fluid always makes itself known. Hearing this, the gentleman became angry and asked what he dared to say. Hearing this, the assistant asked the leader to let him take care of them. The guy tells the knights that this man saved them, and if it weren't for these magicians, these monsters would have maimed them or even killed them. And then he says that they killed him when it was already over, and now they are blaming the innocent. The man claims that these three saved them, and then asks why the security arrived so late, and wonders if they are even doing their job. The assistant suggests leaving this place before the situation gets more complicated, and asks what the leader will say. At this time, the main character realized that the man who was following her was Evan. She asks what is happening, and the man does not take off his mask, and tells Charlotte that he is not Evan, and the girl screams and says that she is not Charlotte either, and asks what happened to him. At this time, the guy took the girl in his arms, but the Archduke appeared and said that he took his hands off her. The main character thought that no one was hurt, and she wondered why he was acting like that. Jeffrey claimed that he would never hurt her, and the lady explained that she wasn't talking about herself. The Archduke turns to the guy and says that this is how he learned to behave, and then he takes the sword and the fight begins. Charlotte asks what they are doing here together because she thinks that they are not children anymore, and Evan leaves and tells Charlotte that they will meet in Marvel. Evan was following her surveil and believes that he figured it out from the very beginning. The Archduke reports that he also knew it was him, and his whereabouts were unknown, but he was last seen 4 years ago in the mountains in Marvel. There was a big commotion in the mountains, because of which rumors began to spread about his death. The gentleman explains that this is why they have no information about what he has been doing for the last 4 years, and they will track him down because they believe that he could not have gone far. Charlotte says that it is not necessary because he is the most capable among her students, and if that child decided to hide, then finding him will be very difficult, and therefore they do not need to look for him because he will come himself. The lady doesn't understand why she didn't recognize Evan right away and thinks it's only because he hid his face. The girl believes that she could not recognize him because the mana around him is completely different, and there are only 2 reasons why the mana unique to each mage can change. If a person loses it like she did, or if you touch it, you can't touch anything. Charlotte tells Jeffrey that she needs to go to Marvel. The servant informs His Majesty that a reply has arrived from Klaus, and the Emperor says that it has arrived faster than he thought. The man reminds them that he himself said that if they do not respond by today, he will send a meteorite at them and asks if they are declaring war. His Majesty wonders why, because he thinks they are sending a delegation to discuss everything peacefully. The servant wonders if he really thinks that the man Gilhart met has some relation to her. The Emperor believes that if he is convinced of this, he must personally meet this man. The guy turns to His Excellency and asks if he sees that there were demons of darkness in the event. He believes that it is necessary to immediately gather the knights and report to the palace about what happened in order to receive instructions on further actions, and therefore His Excellency must first gather the knights. The main character tells the leader that it's okay that he ran away because he protected the people. The girl says that it's wonderful. Dan asks his grandfather if he wants to tell him anything, and the Archduke replies that he has nothing and says that he is terrible and will never forgive him. The guy asks in surprise what he did, and the gentleman explains that he hoped to get information from him about what happened in Avant and wants him to hand over the criminals to them. Jeffrey believes that this is Klaus's business and their actions here are limited, so he offers cooperation because he thinks that it would be nice if they quickly settled everything with joint efforts before the situation gets worse. The gentleman believes that then they will all be able to breathe freely. At this time, the main character tells the maid that she just wanted to change clothes. Hearing this, the maid, surprised, says that she is the only lady who is close to His Excellency, and therefore they must serve her in the best possible way. Charlotte thought that it seemed like they had gotten it all wrong, and the maid wonders why Venny hasn't brought the jewelry box yet, and asks Milady if she could wait a little while. Lottie thinks that she needs to run away from here, and when she went outside, she thought that for the first time she felt that someone was following hers. The girl remembers that when she arrived in Aventu, it means that Evan was in Aventu from the very beginning, and he began to follow her before his arrival, and she simply did not notice him. However, she wonders when he found out who she really is. The main character saw a man with dark hair who asks if he is dreaming. How did it happen that in the gloomy estate of the eternally single Archduke, who has practically no servants, a beautiful little lady walks around freely? The woman claims that she does not look like an uninvited guest like her, and asks if she works for the Archduke. Charlotte asks who she is, and the stranger comes closer to her and says that she has beautiful eyes. Dan suddenly appears and stands in front of the main character. The woman says that there are still guests here. Jeffrey opens the door and asks to come into the room. The girl with dark hair says that since the Archduke declines all her invitations to the palace, she decided to come to him herself. Charlotte wonders why she arrived without protection. Miss claims that Klaus is under the protection of the Archduke, and therefore believes that this is the safest place on Earth. The main character thought that the young girl who inherited Klaus's throne 5 years ago was her, and she was sure that she had already seen this child. The girl asks the Archduke if it is possible that he is leading a reclusive and single life because of this young lady, because he sent Dan Monty away, but she was allowed to stay, and her identity was revealed to her, and she believes that this means that the master trusts her completely. The little girl with blue eyes says that it is possible that the girl that the Emperor of Marvel is looking for is Arya Lysons. Gilhart turns to the leader and says that he was looking for him, and then asks where the young lady is, and weren't they together? Dan asks what's going on, and the assistant says that it seems that the girl is close to Archduke Louis and asks who she is. The master objects and says that they are not close. Oh, head of the Black Moon, says that in fact he found out some information, and then says that this girl belongs to the aristocratic family of Klaus, and she is the only offspring of the Count Lysen, but has not yet inherited the title of Countess. Gilhart says that he thought that if she does not belong to any guild, then why not become a member of their Black Moon? However, he understands that she is an aristocrat Klaus. But given her outstanding abilities, she definitely has some relation to Marvel. The man says that he has already informed His Majesty Carcillion about the girl, and if he has any information upon hearing this, Dan grabs him by the shirt and asks who he informed. The guy with red hair answers that the Emperor Carcillion about the girl, and then asks in surprise if he did something wrong. Milady with black hair says that Carcillion is looking for Arya Leeson, and she would not call what he is doing simply the word looking, but she does not know whether he has senile dementia or he has simply gone crazy, because he said that if they immediately give him Arya, he will blow up the imperial palace of Klaus and turn it into torpedoes. The lady says that when a person is ready to declare war over such a trifle, it means that he is definitely crazy, and if they had not received an official letter, they would have thought that a madman was behind this terrible act. The Archduke says that he certainly would not have done this, and even if he had destroyed the palace, they would have built a new one. At this time, the main character thought about what it means. He declared this war because of her, and Jeffrey offers to listen, because he really was going to tell her all the details. The guest says that no matter what they found the person he was looking for, and who would have thought that Arya is a close friend of the Archduke, and therefore she has many questions for her, but since they don't have time, she will get straight to the point. The woman turns to the Archduke and orders that Arya Leeson be included in the delegation that they are sending to Marvel. The girl with black hair says that since the young lady is also a citizen of Klaus, she is sure that Arya does not want war, and if Marvel has honor and conscience, then by sending them the girl, they will achieve even better conditions than they originally expected. Jeffrey asks if she is offering to sell a person for profit. She objects and says that she can't sell them, because they will only send her as part of a delegation to visit Marvel. The lady says that if Arya, who will be part of the delegation, does not return to Klaus, or is harmed, then in that case they will enter into war. And although she makes the decision, his opinion in this case plays a decisive role. The guest turns to Lady Leeson and asks if she knows why Emperor Marvel is looking for her. She replies that she really doesn't know anything. The woman says that this may seem unexpected to the young lady, but she wants her to make the decision, and asks if she is ready to join the delegation that goes to Marvel and prevent the war. Charlotte asks Dan if he has been waiting for a long time. The guy says no. She says she knows it will sound unexpected, and then says she is going to Marvel. The leader says that he will go with her, but the girl objects and says that he cannot, and asks not to look at her like that. And at that time, she thought that the day when she herself admits to them who she is will never come. Lottie tells Dan that she knows who he's thinking about when he looks at her, The main character reflects on the fact that if she becomes Charlotte Eleanor again, then in the end, nothing will change, and then says that the problem is that she is an Arya. The leader asks if he can call her Miss Arya, and she agrees and says that he can call her whatever he likes. He asks when she is leaving, and the girl replies that tomorrow morning. Charlotte claims that even if he looks at her like that, he still won't be able to go with her. And then she says that she wanted to ask him for a favor and asks if he could listen to her. At this time, the Archduke tells the guest that he cannot take her further. She says that this is unexpected, and it seems to her that this girl is very dear to him, and she even thought that he would try to dissuade her or go with her. Geoffrey says that she wouldn't have listened anyway, because she has very beautiful eyes. The lady agrees with him and says that few people have such golden eyes as hers, and they remind someone very much, for example, the archmage Charlotte. The woman asks if it is possible that the Emperor of Marvel is looking for Arya because she has some relation to Charlotte. He replies that he does not know, and the woman says that he will not tell her anything anyway, and therefore she will stop asking questions. The girl says that, who knows, because she assumes that maybe this crazy emperor is looking for people with golden eyes like Charlotte Eleanor's. Because there are a huge number of her crazy fanatics in this city, and therefore she thinks that His Excellency understands this better than others, because he is one of her fanatics, and asks if this is true. The woman says that she can only hope that there is a little room in their Archduke's head to take care of Klaus. Geoffrey doesn't understand what to do since there is no more space. More than 70 years ago, His Majesty says that let the princess and the prince go around because he will fulfill the wish of the winner of the test, and then says that they can participate together with the teachers in order to show the best result. The emperor asks who the first prince of the Clefts has chosen as his teacher. He says that it is the Marquis Faccio of Irmid because he was a teacher of many outstanding magicians in the past, and he is a great master from whom he can learn a lot. His Majesty turns to the Cleft and offers to tell him what he wants him to do if he wins the competition. He replies that he wants to take possession of the area of Stria in the lands of Tabna. The first prince says that the reason is that this region is famous for its amethyst deposits, but recently the mining of stones has decreased, and he wants to help them find new ways of mining so that the lands of Taban will prosper again. The emperor says that he is endowed with a truly great mind, and therefore wishes him victory, and then turns to Princess Macy and asks which of the magicians will become her mentor. Suddenly, the second prince comes in and says that he also wants to take part in the trials. The emperor says that he doesn't look well, and then asks if everything is okay with him. The boy assures that he feels fine, and His Majesty says that he will provide equal opportunities for all members of the imperial family, and asks the second prince of Carcillion who will be his teacher. At this time, when the aristocrats heard this, they realized that he could not control his mana, and they wondered if there would be a magician who would want to become his teacher, and they did not understand how with his abilities he could even participate in the test. The gentlemen think that the boy is too young or simply stupid, but they understand that perhaps the blood of the imperial family flows in him. Carcillion tells him that he has no teacher, and His Majesty states that he will not pass the test without a teacher, and may even lose his life, and then asks if he still wants to participate. He says yes. The emperor says that in that case, he should tell them his wish and asks what he wants so much that he is even ready to sacrifice his life for it. The boy says that he wants to become an emperor. All the gentlemen heard this and were surprised and considered this to be unheard of. Impudence. His Majesty says that if he wins, he hopes to hear his wishes once more. The first prince says that he thinks that allowing his younger brother to participate in the test without a teacher is too cruel. And today the outstanding magicians of Marvel have gathered in this place, and he asks why they don't try to find a mentor for their brother now. The emperor says that this is a wonderful idea. Carcillion, hearing this, asks them to wait, and his elder brother says that he is addressing everyone present because his brother is going to take part in a test without a teacher, and there are many dangerous situations waiting for him there. The young master claims that their origin is not important, and if there is a person there who is ready to become the teacher of his younger brother, Prince Mavril Carcillion, to asks him to come forward and tell them his name. The emperor announces that he promises to generously reward anyone who responds to the invitation to become the second prince's mentor. The young gentleman claims that he can do it this way, and therefore believes that no one needs him, and at that time he realizes that no one has agreed. His Majesty reports that if no one responded, then he can do nothing, and the second prince will participate without. However, the main character says that she agrees, and then apologizes for being a little late. Seeing Charlotte, the Lord was surprised, because they knew that she had gone to Tarvin, and they did not understand how she had arrived here so quickly. Lottie suggests that everyone shut up, and then says that they are all Marvel magicians who don't know any shame, and calls them pathetic nobodies, and then turns to His Highness Prince Carcillion and suggests calling her teachers. The lady tells the gentleman to raise his head and straighten his shoulders, because from this moment on, he becomes her first student. The young gentleman thought that he had not remembered the past for a long time, and believed that this meant that something good was about to happen soon. The guy claims that he said he would try not to attract too much attention to himself, and doesn't understand whether it's worth asking him to come down, and thinks that most likely security is already on its way here. The gentleman smiled and asked what he was thinking about, and whether, when His Majesty said that he was going to meet him, he meant a meeting in Klaus. Judy asks if she really has to go, and the lady says she will bring them gifts. Jerome wonders why she suddenly needed to go to Marvel, and she will be accompanied by other knights, and he does not understand whether this means everything will be fine with her. The girl says that she is sick of them and asks if it is true that they do not know how to admit defeat. She wants to catch them all and push them into a hive with Ururu. At this time, the main character looked at the box and asked what it was. The gentleman answered that it was a potion with mana, and it was improved so that it suited her and did not cause side effects. The man thinks that it would be better if she didn't need the potion at all, but they don't know what awaits her. Charlotte thanks him and says that she will use him wisely, and the Archduke asks if he can come with her. She objects and says that he should do his job here because she herself has to deal with the problem in Marvel, and she is sorry that Klaus got involved in what is happening. At this time, the main character thought that when everything ends, she will have to somehow compensate for it. Jeffrey turns to the girl and says that he often thought that it would be very good to tie her to him so that she would have nothing else to do but look at him and only at him. Lottie asks if he wants to keep her on a leash like a dog, and offers to try, then says that she will grind him into dust. At this time, the lady thought that he was stupid, and it seemed to her that something strange had been happening to him lately, and then she remembered that he really had been a little strange from the very beginning. Charlotte reflects that now she must focus on the meeting with Carcillion as Arya listen, and on the problem with Evan, she hopes that her assumptions were wrong. When the main character arrived, she was met by a lady who said that she was glad to meet her, and then said that her name was Fenrir Schrad, and she is the captain of the Third Knightly Order of the Empire, and this time she is leading the delegation, and it is an honor for her to meet her. Charlotte says that her name is Arya Leeson, and asks to take care of her. And at that time, she thought that the Schrott family is an outstanding family of the Knights of Klaus, and she does not understand why it is an honor for her to meet her. The captain reports that His Majesty asked to take good care of her because she is a dear person to the Archduke. Hearing this, the lady objects and says that it seems to be some kind of misunderstanding. Fenrir asks not to worry, because only she knows about this, and then says that even if a blade is brought to her throat, she will remove this secret at the cost of her life. At this time, a man approaches them and asks what secret she is talking about. The captain explains that it is her assistant, Jane Farinon. The man says that he is glad to meet and thought that this girl is very beautiful, so the main character turns to the captain and asks if it was necessary to meet in the middle of the forest, since she believes that it would be more convenient to meet at the border in Telewania. Fenrir explains that the thing is that Marvel is going to open a portal there and send magicians through it, and she doesn't know what they were planning, but they had no reason to refuse them this condition, and besides, they said that they would send magicians even without prior consent, and they have no manners at all. At this time, the girl does not understand why she did not feel anything, and why her sensitivity to mana has decreased so much. She understands that if the gates of movement are opened, it means that high-level magicians will arrive here, and if this is so, then she knows them for sure, and at this time she understands that someone is coming here. Suddenly, people appeared who came through the portal, and the assistant asks the captain if she knows any of them. She says that she will go and greet them and suggests that he not leave the Lady Fox. Jan says that judging by how surprised the captain was, very important people had arrived and asks Lady Leeson why. But when he looked back, he saw that the lady had disappeared somewhere. Fenrir says that who would have thought that the crown prince, who so rarely appears in public, would personally come here today, and then asks if it would not be too hasty to assume that today's task is of utmost importance. The gentleman says that he will not deny it because he is. Gerhard Caden Marvel answers for the Marvel delegation and then asks if they have met before. The captain replies that they have never met, but she saw His Highness once and reports that she is Fanril Shrod. I is the captain who leads their group. His Highness says he is sure he has heard her name before. The lady says that if they had known that he would be the one arriving with the delegation, they would have prepared an official reception, and if they had reported that one of their people would be walking on their memorial statue, they would have also handled the situation differently. Gerhard reports that they in no way wanted to disturb Klaus's peace, because there was simply a small glitch with the movement magic, and whatever the case, it was only their mistake, and therefore her guards are not to blame. The gentleman suggests getting straight to the point and asks to rearrange the other members of the delegation, and after that, they will continue on their way together, and then asks if they can first meet the young lady, the Count's daughter. And he talks about the Arya of the Leesons. At this time, the main character running away asks why they are pursuing her, and the assistant asks why she is running away from him. At this time, the girl thought that it was just worth their eyes to meet, and she instinctively ran because she could not even imagine that he would pursue her with such zeal. Lottie thinks that he is a bastard who could easily grab her with magic, but instead, he decided to chase her through the forest. And at this time, she does not understand why he decided to run at all, because they should meet. Charlotte reflects that she simply did not think that their meeting would happen so quickly, and given that Gerhard was there, she does not understand what he was even thinking when he allowed himself, the Emperor and the Crown Prince, to leave the country at the same time and arrive with a delegation to Klaus. The lady, lost in her thoughts, did not notice the stick and hit herself on it, while the assistant wanted to grab her, but fell along with her. Milady asks when he is going to use his magic or save it. He replies that unfortunately he is not a magician, and if he lives in Marvel, it does not mean that he is a magician. Hearing this, the main character was surprised and became interested in what he was thinking about, and then she looked at the guy and saw a Carcillion. The captain turns to Lady Listen and asks where she went, and then says that she spent a long time looking for her, and also asks what happened and why she looks like that. The girl replies that she just fell, and Fenrir asks if she is sure that this is all that happened. The lady explains that the man tried to help her, but they both ended up falling. The Emperor says that since they have already gathered, then he suggests that they set out on their journey, since he believes that it would be better if they arrive in Marvel before sunset. His Majesty tells his son that this young lady really does look like her, but not just similar, and if someone told him that it was her, he would believe it. The gentleman asks if he really thinks that this miss is her. Carcillion objects and says that this is impossible because this girl cannot be a teacher, but he still believes that he should check it himself. Carcillion, standing in the center of the magic circle, says that knights who are sensitive to mana may feel a slight dizziness, and therefore asks to pay attention to this warning, and then asks where Klaus's mages are. The man says that he exists, and his name is Glenn Howard, and he is the magician of Klaus from Icross. The woman with dark hair says that she is Ramon Filter. The gentleman asks to come to him to check everything. Glenn asks why they are so embarrassed, and then says that it hurt his pride. Ramon thinks that there is nothing to be done about it, since all the magicians feel such awe before Marvel. The captain turns to Lady Lyson and then asks if she knows anything about the Emperor of Marvel. Hearing this, the main character thought that she knows a lot about him, and then objects and says that she knows nothing. Fenrir reports that they say that the Emperor is a strong and cold-blooded man, and he is rightly called the perfect ruler of the Empire, and thanks to Charlotte Eleanor being a citizen of Marvel, became an honor. But it was his actions that helped rebuild, preserve, and bring the country to prosperity. The captain reports that, given all this, no one expected Emperor Marvel to do what he did 6 years ago. And if Archduke Louis had not managed to reconcile the parties, who knows what kind of terrible war they would have been drawn into. Fenrir tells the lady that His Majesty is afraid that the Emperor of Marvel will want to do what he did 6 years ago, and of course they hope that nothing will happen, but it is better to be on guard, and therefore asks that if the lady encounters a problem, then she should not try to hide anything but tell them everything. The captain tells the lady that as soon as they arrive in Marvel, she should not leave her side for a single step, and the girl says that she understands. The assistant turns to the lady and says that they have finished the preparation and therefore suggests moving out. The main character remembered that when she came to the man, she asked if he was dying or had already died, and Carcillion turns to the teacher and says that he thinks that he doesn't have much time left because the food has lost its taste and it has become difficult for him to walk and his strength is leaving him. Charlotte reports that she saw him yesterday chasing his son after that scoundrel beat him up. The man hearing this asks in surprise if she actually saw everything and therefore understands that she arrived yesterday, and then asks why she came only now. The teacher explains that she had some business to take care of, and then asks if he could stop calling her like that, and also asks if he said that he was poisoned or that he broke his leg, and asks if he remembers how old he is. The master says that if he does not do this, then the teacher will not come to the palace to visit him. Charlotte claims that she is busy. Carcillion thinks that no matter how busy she is hardly busier than the emperor of an entire country. And the lady says that he certainly knows what an emperor who has time to pretend to be sick is. His Majesty says that sometimes it seems to him that becoming an emperor was not his best idea. And as soon as he thinks that it is time for him to leave the throne, his only son and heir disappears and turns out to return. The man says that he will be an emperor until the end of his days and will die on the throne, and then will be doomed to wander the corridors of the palace as a ghost. Lottie suggests not to worry, because if he becomes a ghost, she will come and drive him out. The teacher approaches Carcillion and then strokes his head and says that he is already a great emperor and he no longer needs to work so hard. To understand this, he just needs to look at what the Marvel Empire has become. His Majesty claims that Marvel became like this thanks to her teacher. That is why he never worried, even when he is gone, she will still be more worthy of this throne than anyone else. At this time, the main character thought that she might not worry, because judging by his actions, he did not recognize her, but he might have suspicions about her, since Carcillion would never do anything that could harm Marvel. Charlotte realizes that she still has to be wary. The gentleman informs that the gates are open, and they are starting to move, and therefore asks them to remain in their places until they finish moving. At this time, the main character thought that it was simply amazing that he alone could hold the gate because she had never seen it before, and thought that this was a new magician. A few minutes later, the man asks in surprise where they are, because there was snow everywhere, and it was very cold. He thinks that no matter how you look at it, it doesn't look much like the capital of Marvel, because there were only rocks around. The man says that he will explain everything, and therefore suggests staying calm. The captain claims that he will have to explain everything, because his answer will determine where Klaus's sword will be directed. The magician turns to Klaus's magicians, and says that before leaving, they had the opportunity to check everything, and then asks if there was something wrong with the magic circle. Glenn objects, and says that the magic circle definitely said that they should go to the capital of Marvel, and he thinks that if there were any problems with the inscriptions, they would have said so right away. The gentleman asks if they heard everything themselves, because he wrote down the location in the spell correctly, and there shouldn't have been any problems with the returns, and then asks why, in that case, they ended up here, and not in the capital. The magician says that he is also confused and scared. When he hears this, the main character screams and asks if they should also believe this, when he tells this lie with such an imperturbable look. The man claims that since his birth, this is the third time he has been so surprised and shocked by what is happening. And the girl tells him to stop and suggests that he find out later who is to blame for this situation. Charlotte argues that they should all focus on how to leave this place. At this time, the captain screams and announces that something is approaching and tells the knights to all get ready. Lottie suggests that they not engage in battle and believes that they need to hide to avoid a dangerous situation. Fenrir says that perhaps they are not as strong as His Excellency the Archduke, but suggests not to underestimate the people who are here and therefore asks to trust her. The lady objects and says that this is not the problem, and the captain tells the assistant not to leave the Lady Fox. Suddenly, they saw a dragon, and the man asked in surprise why it was so big and did it look like a normal wrangle. And the magician said that it was the first time he saw such a huge one. At this time, the captain attacked the dragon and cut him with his sword. The knights screamed and said that their captain was the best. The magician asks in surprise that this is the dragon reborn, and he believes that this is not just a rebirth, since the dragon split and one turned into two. And in order to destroy it, you need to create an explosion and burn its body. Marvel Mage is just going to watch what's happening. He replies that he used a huge amount of mana to open the gate, so he needs time to recover. Fenrir screams and says that he had the mana to attack her, and then asks if there aren't 4 of them here, and then asks if they are offering His Highness to fight this terrible creature. The man asks if in a situation like this, someone shouldn't take responsibility, and the captain says that His Highness has a weak stomach, so he hates fighting monsters, and then turns to the magician and asks if he's going to move and leave them here. The mage replies that unfortunately, they cannot use the travel gate here, because he believes that the captain should also have sensed that the mana here is unstable. Lottie asks if this is the Calberon Ridge, and at that moment, she thinks that it was here that the first battle of the archmage Charlotte Eleanor with death took place 100 years ago. Later in these mountains, mana became dangerous and unstable, and that is why many magicians come there to train, and Marvel people call this place the Path of Trials. The captain asks the mage if he will just run away without even trying to do anything, and then says that, as soon as they return to Klaus, she will conduct a thorough investigation. Fenrir is surprised and asks why there are 4 Ragnals here. Then she says that if there are 10 of them, she will deal with them and simply crush them into dust. The captain saw that there were more and more of these dragons, and realized that it was becoming a little dangerous there. Jan tells Milady that she can't go there because she thinks it's dangerous. The main character says that this is the ridge of the Calberon, and as soon as the Ragnells, when Calberona see uninvited guests on their territory, they immediately call others for help, and so when they attack one, others soon appear, and usually one Ragnell calls 3 to 5 more Ragnells. Lottie says that if so many Ragnells arrived here at once, it can only mean one thing. Someone planned this in advance. Hearing this, the gentleman remembered that he once asked the teacher to look because he saw many Ragnells, and it seemed to him that there were more than 100 of them. And he also became interested in whether something had happened, because now they were heading towards them. The teacher claims that these fools still don't understand anything. The assistant tells them to all go back, since everyone has been given the order to retreat and run to the highest point that is near them. Jan says that the captain will cover them from behind, so they should not look back, and if they want to live, they must run as fast as they can. He took the lady in his arms and asked for forgiveness for this, and the girl screams and asks what he is doing. The man says that even if it is uncomfortable for her, he asks her to be patient for a little while. Milady claims that she can run herself, and he says that she is slower than the knight. The crown prince asks why he is carrying her in such a strange way, and thinks that she is not some kind of sack to be carried like that. The gentleman says that it is a disgusting sight, and he knew that there was a reason why he dislikes Klaus's knights so much. Meanwhile, the girl asks to be let go. The assistant tells the lady that he will let her go as soon as they arrive at a safe place. She asks where the safe place is, because she understands that it is a Calberon. Jan reports that as soon as he gets to the top, they will be able to rest there because he believes that the Ragnells are not very smart, so once they reach the top, they will not be able to detect them. Lottie asks in surprise if he really believes this, and then says that nothing can be predicted in Calberon. Suddenly, the assistant saw a pink horse that overtook them. He asked in surprise what it was, and the magician says that this is his familiar, and to create it requires very little mana, so it is easy to use. The assistant screams and says that this is not what he asked about, and then says that he wants to know what the great Marvel wizards are doing while their captain is trying to save everyone. The mage reports that he is currently saving up mana, so it is not yet possible for him to enter the battle. In addition, it is very undesirable for mages to use mana on the mountain ridge. Ian reminds that he himself just said that he created this horse with the help of magic, and understands that he needed mana for this. He replies that His Majesty simply does not like to run. The knight asks in surprise what he is talking about, and then asks about the other magicians. The magician says that it seems to him that he will die before he heals someone. Hearing this, Glenn is surprised and asks Sir Howard if he told the truth. The magician says that, unfortunately, he has too little experience, and Ramon screams and says that her leg is stuck. The assistant claims that they are all useless and asks someone to help this magician quickly. Ramon asks the Lady Knight to save her. The assistant tells the captain not to waste time on this helpless magician and to get out of there quickly, and the Lady Fox suggests holding on tight. At this time, the main character thought that she could not even raise her head from shame. Carcillion reflects on the fact that he felt like they were being watched, but believes that this is impossible. The magician asks in surprise if he is really sure that everything will be okay with them, because he understands that for some reason they are all gathering around them instead of moving on, and believes that now they can't even see them. Charlotte asks if he can do something, because she believes that this is Marvel's land, and no one knows this place better than the Marvel mages. She turns to the man and claims that he is the main mage who is responsible for the travel gates. The lady asks if he is involved in what is happening here, and at that time, she thought that if this is his doing, then it means he has a plan on how to fix all this. The main character believes that if he is truly a well-trained high-level Marvel mage, then the mana limitation in the Calberon is not a problem for him. The magician claims that he has nothing to do with this. Glenn says that his shamelessness knows no bounds, and then says that if they don't have a solution yet, then at least let him try to do something, and asks who brought them here. The magician reminds them that he already told them that all of this was unintentional Glenn objects, and says that it still doesn't look like he's trying to do anything. The man claims that it's not that he doesn't want to do something, but that he can't. Gerhard claims that even for a Calberon, such a number of Raynels is too much, and given their position and strength, they won't be able to deal with them anyway. The captain says that even though these are mountains, there usually aren't so many monsters there. And the most important thing is that they ended up there by mistake when they went to Marvel. And she's not stupid enough to believe that all this is a coincidence. The lady asks why Marvel set all this up. The main character remembers that the Marquis of Fatio turned to her and begged her to save His Highness Reiselina. The teacher tells him to stop humiliating himself and get up off his knees, and then asks what good it will do if he bends his legs a little. Lottie says that if they leave things as they are, the second prince will be in danger too, and then asks if they are really just going to stand here and watch. He asks what she is talking about, and then claims that when things get really dangerous, he will save her apprentice. Charlotte says that he must save his student himself, because in the test, the teacher can only help his student, and then asks if it wasn't he who gathered all these Raynels here. The teacher says that she knows what he was planning, but she has the impression that she was lured into a trap because he used almost all of his mana for this, and now he can't even save his only student, and thinks that this is a pity. The magician claims that they got it all wrong, and then asks how he could do that to Lady Eleanor. The main character says that she is now speaking, despite the fact that she is here, and despite the fact that this child is her student, and believes that he still committed such a stupidity. The lady reports that all these evil acts are directed at this child, and she considers it an attack on her personally, and then asks if he understood what she said. The Marquis asks why she is protecting the second prince, since he is a half-breed and a non-entity who does not even sense mana. Charlotte says that there is too big a difference between them, and therefore she sees no point in further conversations. The Marquis claims that he still knows that she is going to save Reiseline because they did not fall, and it is she who is holding them. The teacher asks what he is talking about, and then says that she knew that his personality was as disgusting as dirt on the street. And yet she thought that his abilities were quite useful, but this also turned out to be untrue. The main character claims that she doesn't keep them. Reiseline screams and asks why no one is following them, and what the Marquis and Archmage are doing now. The man asks Marquis Facio if he is sure that the idea with the Raynels will work. He replies that, of course, because even if it is Lady Eleanor, it is difficult to cope with so many Raynels at once. He believes that this will be enough to intimidate the second prince. Hearing this, the young gentleman says that this is great, because he thinks that this time he will put him in his place. And at that time, he thought about how a person who not only can't cast spells, but can't even feel Manhwa dared to encroach on the title of emperor. Raistlin says to Carcillion, if only he hadn't bothered him, he would have done this task long ago. Hearing this, the guy asks to stop because it's hard enough for him to hold them back. The Marquis asks what she means by this, because he thinks that the second prince can't even sense mana. He asks what Lady Eleanor did to him, and says in surprise that this is why he can. Charlotte claims that she did nothing, and that this child is endowed with great talent, and it is just that none of them could see it. At this time, Carcillion fought with all his might against the monsters, and then screamed and said that he could not do it anymore. The archmage, seeing this, says that this is enough for her. Raistlin asks the teacher in surprise why she came here. He also asks if she is going to solve this problem and asks to quickly save him. Charlotte says that he seems to have misunderstood something, and then says that she did not come here to save the first prince. The lady asks if this will be a test, then states that they must overcome everything themselves or wait for their teacher, the Marquis Faccio, although she does not think that he will come. Hearing this, the prince asks what she is saying, and also wonders if she is leaving him here alone, and then says that if His Majesty finds out about this, he will punish her. The young gentleman asks if she, as an archmage, Marvella, is not ashamed of her actions. Now Lottie replies that she is not ashamed, and he asks in surprise why she is doing this to him, and wonders if he is guilty of something before the lady. The teacher suggests doing this, and if the first prince apologizes and thinks about what he is guilty of, then perhaps she will change her decision. Raistlin claims that he is not guilty of anything because His Majesty said that representatives of the Marvel imperial family should not bow their heads to anyone, and he also said that they should do all this correctly, because if he did something bad, then in his eyes this act is not a mistake, and then asks what he should apologize for. Charlotte says that she'd better think about what to eat tomorrow morning, because maybe he's like this because there weren't any decent adults around him. The young master claims that if His Majesty finds out that she treated him like that, she will be in trouble no matter how great an archmage she is. However, the main character claims that if he makes a mistake, he should always sincerely ask for forgiveness, no matter who he is, a street beggar or the ruler of an empire, and then says that they don't have time, so she gives him 5 seconds. Raistlin suggests waiting, and then says that all these Raynels are the fault of the Marquis Faccio, and it is not him. The teacher calls out the number 4, and then 3. He asks if she will leave him here alone, because she assumes that he might be hurt or killed, and therefore even an archmage will not be able to escape responsibility. The main character says the number 1, and the young gentleman screams and says that he was wrong, and it is all his fault. The teacher claims that it is not she. He should apologize too. The prince turns to the Carcillion and says that he was right. Carcillion asks the teacher, what is the point of these apologies if they do not come from the heart? She agrees with him and claims that he is right. Carcil turns to the young gentleman and reminds him that earlier he said that it was all because of him, and no matter how much he offended him, he could endure everything, but the soldier who was kind to him was brutally beaten almost to death, and the librarian who always brought him books was kicked out of her favorite job. The boy says that the servant who was riding with him in the carriage was so badly injured that he might never be able to walk again. Raistlin asks in surprise what he means by this, and the guy claims that it was all because of him that he wanted to become an emperor, and now that he heard his heartless apology, he wants to tell him that it was all because of him. Charlotte says that they talked, and the boy turns to the teacher and asks if something can be done about it. She asks if it's with the first prince, and he objects and says it's with the Ragnells. The main character explains that a very dangerous situation has arisen here, and other magicians who come here may suffer. He asks if there is a way out. The teacher says that they actually have several options, but now it is best to choose the simplest one, and then suggests watching carefully, because in this situation she used magic. Marquis Faccio, screaming, says that it is best to get rid of everyone in one fell swoop. At this time, the main character almost lost consciousness, but Jan caught her. His Majesty says that this girl looks very much like her. The captain tells the assistant to take his hands off her right now. And at that moment, the girl thought that she doesn't understand how she got to this point. Fenrir tells the Lady Fox not to leave her side for a single step, and then tells her that monsters are trying to break through from below. She doesn't understand how this is possible, and thinks that they need to move on. The assistant informs that there is a cliff behind, and in order to get to the other side, it is necessary to go down to the ground again, but he understands that it is very dangerous to go down, and he asks what they should do next. His Majesty asks if there is no other way out, and Lady Arya claims that there is always a way out. His Majesty says that they have 13 high-ranking knights and 2 lieutenant mages, and his son, 1 Marvel prince. But the most important thing is that mages cannot freely use magic here. The young gentleman turns to the young lady and offers to tell them how she proposes to deal with such a number of monsters with the powers they have. The main character says that there is something else, and that it is an incredibly powerful magician who is stronger than everyone present here put together. The lady approaches the prince, and he claims that, as he said earlier, he is not a magician, but she kicks him, and he falls off the cliff. Jan says in surprise that she pushed a man who does not possess magic. And at that time, the young gentleman approached the lady, and she pushed him too. Lottie claims that this is all Marvel's doing, and therefore believes that they should sort it out themselves. At this time, the knights do not understand what is happening, because the Rangels are flying apart into small pieces. The mage says that it is an incredibly dazzling golden mana, and they believe that the archmage has arrived to help Marvel. The lady asks the captain if his aura will reach the mountain behind her. She says that, while they are currently destroying the Raynels in front of them, they will choose another path. Charlotte says that the place where they are now standing will collapse sooner or later, and therefore it is better to create a bridge from the broken pieces of rock and cross it. The captain turns to Klaus's magicians and says that when the mountain falls, let them use magic to fasten the stones along which they will retreat. The assistant says that he thinks that all the stones will fall on the monsters that are below, and therefore believes that nothing terrible will happen if they try. Glenn says that they will do everything, but he understands that this is Calberon, and therefore it is difficult to use mana there. But if they listen carefully to him, then everything will work out. And if they meet monsters on the way, then the knights should deal with them, only they will use a lot of strength. The main character says about 2 people from Marvel, that if they want to help those 2 who fell down, then let them go down and help, and if not, then they should go with them. Charlotte thought that he was still a child, and therefore she would be lenient with him. The captain claims that they must follow Lady Leeson's plan, and therefore tells everyone to get ready because they are starting a fight. Fenrir tells them not to stand there like statues, but to prepare to run. At this time, the main character looked at the bottle and thought that it was good that she kept it to herself. The aristocrats ask His Excellency what he thinks about this, because they believe that twice in a row is real madness, and if he allows something like this once, then, next time, they will ask him for even more. At this time, the gentleman thought that Lottie should have arrived there by now, and he does not understand why no one from Marvel contacted them, and he thinks that maybe it was worth sending stronger knights with her. The assistant asks His Excellency if he has any wishes. Geoffrey wonders why he bothers him. The Archduke used magic to disperse all those who asked him stupid questions and wasted his time. Sylvan says in surprise that if he wanted to figure it out himself, he would have simply told him in advance. And at this time, the aristocrat says that they were wrong, and they understood everything even if he used words to explain. The gentleman says that he made a small mistake, and then asks if anyone was hurt. However, he understands that it seems more appropriate for him to ask if anyone died. The Archduke realizes that Lottie used the potion, and he wonders what happened. He thinks that he should have gone with her after all. At this time, the main character drank the potion, and she remembers Geoffrey, but she doesn't understand what he did because it's not a mana spell. The gentleman turns to His Majesty, and he says that she is an interesting girl, and asks if it is true. The prince says that now is not the time to laugh, and he asks why he shouldn't laugh, and then asks if he saw his face when he fell here. His Majesty says that he feels that they should study the Arya of the Foxes better, and if he allows him, he would like to accompany her to Klaus. The Emperor asks if this is necessary, because he thinks he already knows the truth and thinks it needs to be finished quickly, and then asks where the Imperial Guard is. At this time, the main character thought that although she is similar in essence to Mana, she is much heavier and releases very sad energy. The girl realized that instead of magic, she was using Geoffrey's aura. And at that time, she couldn't believe that he had given her such a huge amount of pure aura. And she realized that terrible things could happen to his body if he had given so much aura. The assistant asks if everything is okay with Milady, and she assures that everything is fine, and at that time, she thought about how the master of the sword feels about you. After all, she has such a feeling that she can defeat anyone. The main character looked at another mountain and saw a man there who was watching them. The assistant says that it seems that she will soon fall, and therefore suggests that they return quickly, and says that he will go with the Lady Fox, and therefore tells them to quickly leave, and for the lady to follow him. Charlotte thinks that she was not mistaken, because she saw Evan. Jan asks Milady why she needed his sword, and also asks who else this man is, and says that, judging by his appearance, he is a magician. Milady asks what he's doing. Evan tells her that he hates the color blue. The assistant asks the lady who this man is, because he thinks he looks like a magician, but there is something strange about him, and he needs to tell the captain about it urgently. She says she will take his sword for a short time. The main character tells the knight to go to the captain and cross over to the other side with her, and since the situation has changed now, the Marvel magicians will definitely help them. The girl says that in the meantime, she will take part in a small battle. Fenrir wonders if something happened again, and then asks what's going on there. The knight informs the captain that Lady Leeson took the sword from his assistant, and now she is surrounded by a blue aura and is fighting an unknown man who appeared out of nowhere. The servant says that he doesn't know who he is, but he is a very handsome man. And the captain thinks that if he appeared here so unexpectedly, it could mean that he is a Marvel mage, and she doesn't understand why he is fighting with the lady. Ramon suggests they try it together first, and then asks if he's ready. Glenn asks if she's really going to do it. She says that if there's a chance of success, they should try, because she thinks it's better than dying doing nothing, and then asks where the formula is. At this time, His Highness says that he knows that in Klaus, everyone uses the transformation method to change the first formula of Fëanor. But in Calberon, it will be much better for mana if they use a weak spell, because he believes that this is a good option to create the most primitive sphere. Hearing this, the mages agreed with him. The captain turns to His Highness and says that in the current situation, it would be right if he sheds light on what is happening here. He says that he has always strived for peace, but it seems to him that the Emperor of Marvel has other goals. Fenrir says that he demanded to bring Lady Leeson to Marvel, and otherwise he was going to start a war with Klaus, and then asks if His Highness doesn't know about this. The gentleman says that he suspects that he has some guesses on this matter, and the captain claims that their ruler likes to know everything for sure, and therefore asks to tell everything, please. He says not to waste your energy on this because he believes that the situation will soon become clear. The main character remembers that she told Evan that he broke his promise again, and therefore offered to explain. The boy claims that he did not use magic, and the teacher says that she believes this because she understands that if he had used magic, the lives of these children would have been in danger. Evan claims that he is also badly injured, and the archmage says that those children were badly injured, and their legs were broken, their teeth were knocked out, and a full recovery will take several months. The young gentleman claims that it is their own fault that they are such weak and stupid creatures, because they stole them, and when they ate, they talked and laughed. Charlotte asks if those kids took his candy. He replies that they just made him mad. The main character says that 3 years have passed since she took him in, but nothing has changed, and he is still just as arrogant and thinks only of himself. Lottie believes that no matter how much he explains and swears, he is unable to admit his mistakes and keep his word, and believes that his stay next to her is useless. The lady says that from now on, she no longer cares who she beats and who beats him, since he does not have to follow her, because he now has his own path. Hearing this, Evan is surprised and asks what this means. He wonders if she is leaving him. The archmage asks if he thinks that he closed the door, and now she won't be able to get out. And the guy says that he was wrong, and it's all his fault, and claims that it won't happen again. Evan says that if Mistress Charlotte forbids it, then he will not harm anyone else. The main character tells the guy that the fact that there are people weaker than him does not mean that he can do with them as he pleases, because every person in this world, be he weak or strong, if his heart is not evil, he deserves respect. And that is why she wants the guy to spend more time with other people and know happiness. Evan agrees with her, and the woman tells him to apologize to those children and come back, because she will be waiting for him. Charlotte saw Eldo and said in surprise that she should be picking fruit now. The girl asks if she can be calm in such a situation because she asked the lady not to pick up all sorts of strange things, and she claims that she would get rid of him. Charlotte says that it is not a thing, and his name is Evan. The young lady says that when she first saw him, he looked like a beast, but now he tries to imitate people, but he is still very far from being human. Eldo asked the teacher if she herself didn't see that he could easily heal those scratches on himself, but he left them to look unhappy in front of her, and therefore believes that there is darkness inside him. The girl says that in any case, all her students are abnormal, and she wonders how the teacher could gather all these outcasts. Charlotte wonders if she is one of these outcasts. Hearing this, the young lady objects, and then claims that she was not joking when she said that this strange thing should be thrown away. Eldo tells the teacher that if it's so hard for her to throw him out, then at least she should distance herself from him, because he really is very strange. The lady asks why he's so strange, and the girl says that she has a very bad feeling about him. At this time, the main character reflects on the fact that it seems that everything is bad, because she thought that Evan's hostility and anger had practically disappeared after that day. But now it seems to her that everything has returned again. Charlotte realizes that this is different from what she felt when they met in Klaus, and as far as she knows, it is not like Evan's fighting style. And the lady wondered if something had happened during this time. Evan asks what she's thinking. Lottie says she thinks she needs to know what happened to him. Then she says anything will do, and just suggests she say anything. The guy says she's very weak, and Charlotte replies that she always thought fists were better than swords. And then she hits him. The main character realizes that she got hit, and thinks that he intentionally did not dodge, and then asks if everything is okay with him. The lady knows that she sent pure aura into her fist, and he should have dodged. Lottie says he has red liquid running near his mouth. Evan calls her name Charlotte. Hearing this, the girl asks in surprise who he is. At this time, the knight screaming orders everyone to go quickly. The captain asks Sir Feenan where the Lady Fox is. Evan looks at the girl and says that it would be good if everyone had eyes like that. The main character grabs the guy by the shirt and asks who he is. At this time, the gentleman appears and says that he is a little late because the destruction of the monsters took some time, and believes that after all, not everyone can cope with them all in one fell swoop. Carcillion reports that the Marvel mages will deal with the debris and should kill them any minute now, and therefore suggests that she not worry because he was still surprised that he felt an unfamiliar energy, and then asks who he is. The young gentleman looked at the guy and said that they hadn't seen each other for a long time, and then called him his youngest, and said that he was Evan, and also asked how they met because it seemed to him that they were very close. The main character closes the guy's mouth, and at that time thought that Carcillion does not know about the current state, and also assumes that if he has not met him, he does not know. The prince tells the girl that he has thought about something and decided that they have little time, so they need a secluded place, and then asks, "How about this?" He closed himself off from everyone. The prince says that no one will be able to see them, and no one will be able to overhear their conversation. He thinks that it is a bit cramped there, but the atmosphere is cozy and asks if this is true. The guy explains that everything would have collapsed anyway, but he simply created a cozy corner in case the thief wanted to escape. The gentleman turns to Evan and says that 4 years have passed since the day when he stole the treasures of Marvel, the heart of the volcano, and escaped. And when he finds him, there will not be a single hair left on this head, and then asks if he really hasn't seen him until today, because of this girl. Killian offers the lady a look at this rude boy, and she thought about how he was last seen in the mountains 4 years ago. In Calberon, mana is unstable, and although this place is dangerous and most mages avoid it from time to time, talented mages use the conditions to strengthen their mana. Sometimes they manage to achieve outstanding results in magic. The heart of the volcano, in turn, is an incredibly valuable stone that has absorbed various magical properties over many years, and among them, the most important is the strengthening of mana. Charlotte speculates that he did something to the volcano's heart in Calberon, but she thinks that he would have needed a huge amount of mana to do so, and wonders why there were no traces left there. The girl with black hair reports that she heard something about the fifth disciple, something about the devil's domain, like he went where people can't go. The main character thinks that this is just a rumor, because in the notes that Jeffrey gave her, nothing was mentioned about this. Carcillion suggests taking a look at this stupid boy, because he thinks that he hasn't changed at all since their first meeting. He claims that there shouldn't be any magic, and if he uses it in such a small space, the young lady could get hurt. The gentleman thinks that for the safety of the girl, it would be better if he calmly follows him into Marvel's dungeon and then asks if he agrees. And then he says that he simply does not think that leaving him free is the best solution. Suddenly, Evan began to move away, and the main character thought that she still hadn't checked her guesses. The guy with silver hair came closer to Charlotte and then took her hand and kissed her, and he said that they would meet again. Carcillion thinks that he should have been arrested immediately after he stole the volcano's heart, and then he turns to the young lady and says that it seems she had a long conversation with his teacher's youngest student. The young gentleman asks, "How about Togo to talk to him a little?" He looked at the girl and does not understand if everything is okay with her, and then asks about it. The gentleman says that the Imperial Guard has already arrived and is waiting below. The main character does not understand whether he has gone too far. And at this time, the captain turns to Lady Listen and asks if everything is okay with her, and also wonders if she is injured. Fenrir reports that now everything fell into place, and it was because of Marvel that they ended up in the Calberon Mountains because he intentionally put them in danger. She says that there were so many people very close, and despite this, they still did nothing and could use magic, but said that he was not a magician and just watched everything. The captain says that she will provide His Majesty with an official report on what happened, and therefore believes that this will affect the future relationship between Klaus and Marvel. The gentleman says that he offers his deepest apologies because they had a very important reason for which they were forced to resort to creating such a situation, because as a result, nothing terrible happened and no one was hurt. Carcillion reports that fortunately the Klaus Knights are very talented and so they did not worry about anything. But whatever their reasons, they were right to deceive them. And so he sincerely asks for forgiveness from all the Klaus Knights. Fenrir screams and asks if he thinks that he can so easily absolve himself of responsibility with just one apology, and then says that if the Marvel Emperor bowed to them and asked for forgiveness, it would be a completely different matter. Time the Emperor appeared, and everyone bowed their knees and heads before him. He says that he too was in danger along with the knights, and hopes that this will bring them at least some consolation. The man reports that he has a cozillion of concerns, sober Marvel, and he is the Emperor of Marvel. He says that in the palace, the Knights of Klaus should not need anything, and since now everyone is very tired, therefore he suggests to continue their conversation in the palace. Glenn is surprised to hear that he turned out to be the Emperor, and that they got into the castle so easily, and considers them scoundrels. But he is really interested in what is going on here. Jan turns to the captain and asks how they allowed him to share them with Lady Listen, because he thinks that suddenly, those Marvel scoundrels are up to something again. A man with long hair turns to the respected knights and asks if they have rested a little, and if they are ready, he offers to take them to His Highness. The main character asks in surprise whether she should wear it, and the maid claims that His Majesty personally ordered that this dress be prepared for her. Charlotte objects and says that nothing is needed as she is happy with her clothes. Madame asks if she doesn't like them, and then says that they have several options, and asks why she doesn't take a look. The lady says that this outfit is very beautiful, and at that time, she thought that she doesn't have time to look at these dresses. The maid says that Mr. Vermont is already here, and they are not ready yet. The butler says that His Majesty is waiting for them. The maid screams and says that the lady is not ready yet, and asks to wait a little, and then turns to Milady and says that she has very beautiful eyes, and she reminded them of the Marvel heroine because she had the same beautiful golden eyes. At this time, Charlotte, walking along the corridor, thought about the paintings there on every corner, and she was sure that she had burned everything the last time she came to the palace. The man tells Countess Lisen that he does not know what she talked about with His Majesty, but he does not trust her, because he believes that many people have no conscience and want to take advantage of Charlotte's name, and this dishonest trash, no matter how much he crushes it and tramples on it, continues to appear one after another. The gentleman thinks that even if she looks like her, she will never compare to her, and even when she smiles. At that time, the main character thought that he was a good boy, because he understood that you always need to be on your guard and question everything, and thought that it was wonderful that there was such a good boy next to Carcillion. The guy tells the girl that he saw the end of his teacher, And the last moment, when the golden shine of her eyes faded, the teacher was smiling, and he asks if she felt relief. Carcillion says that this thought constantly swirled around in his head, and he could never imagine that he would say goodbye to the teacher in this way. But he could not accept why the teacher made such a choice, because he believes that something was bothering her, and she decided to leave alone. The lady believes that she had a reason for everything, and if the teacher chose to leave in this way, then it was the right and best decision possible, and this ending was the best option for the teacher. The guy says that in the last moment of her life, he really wanted to tell her something, and he constantly thought about it, because in her will, she transferred all her property and rights to Marvel, and instructed him to officially announce her death. But even 8 years later, he still did not tell anyone about her death. The young man says that he and Marvel still need her, and believes that he made a selfish decision, and it seems that only now he understood her, that maybe the teacher is just tired. The guy says that when she saved the world from destruction and was named an archmage, she was only 16 years old, and from that moment on, she ran without stopping, trying to live up to the expectations of many people. She always showed only her ideal self, until her greatness turned her into a deity to whom even death could not bring freedom. The student understands that she had to carry a heavy burden on her fragile shoulders, and he had to take this burden but could not, and therefore believes that he is no different from other people who always relied on her and behaved like spoiled children. The guy says that she had 5 students, but none of them helped her, and then asks how he can be so pathetic, and thinks that maybe the teacher regrets making such a useless person her student. Charlotte says that she does not regret, and if she were in his teacher's place, she would tell him exactly these words. The girl thinks that if the teacher regretted, she asks if she would smile so happily in the last moment of her life. The young man reports that the teacher called manna the breath of God. When the breath of God joins the sincerity of the heart, then in response, God bestows magic upon him, and with the help of this blessing, they perform miracles that make the impossible possible. And then he asks, what if this is not a gift from God? The young gentleman says that he feels like he has finally come to terms with her decision and now wants to become her strength, because he believes that she is not some kind of relic that needs to be protected and revered. And so he will do everything possible to become a tree for her in the shade of which she can rest. Carcillion informs His Highness that they are entering. The Emperor says that in the future, when she meets him, it is better for her not to talk about who she really is, because he believes that this time it is better to keep the students at a distance, and the girl asks him if he does too. Vermont wonders if he can be put on the same level as these infants, and at that time, the lady thought that he is no different from them. The guy says that Mr. Vermin used magic so that they could not hear them, and he is interested in who this girl is, with whom he is having a secret conversation, with a happy smile on his face. The Emperor turns to Klaus's knights and says that he knows that this will not be enough, but he makes a formal apology to Klaus and also intends to pay them compensation for the troubles caused. His Majesty says that he understands that there is resentment in their hearts, but he would like them to show generosity of soul and listen to his story. And then he says that there is one person they have been looking for a long time. Vermin reports that he learned about the Countess from Klaus, about Arya by accident, and wanted to make sure that they were looking for her, and he was able to confirm his suspicions that the person they were looking for was indeed this girl. The captain says that he explained everything, and didn't really explain anything, and then asks the one he was looking for if Lady Fox turned out to be a citizen of Klaus, who has nothing to do with Marvel. His Majesty claims that it doesn't matter now, and maybe she is now a citizen of Klaus, but there is a strong connection between her and Marvel that can't be forgotten or discarded. The main character recalls a conversation about how she told the Carcillion that she felt that hiding in the shadows was not in her character at all, and besides, death could come again now. Charlotte thinks that Evan is obviously somehow connected to his death, and then asks if he knows it too. The Emperor announces that he will now make an official statement, and this girl is Arya, and the great archmage Marvel Charlotte Eleanor is related, and she is her 6th student. The Archduke thought that Lottie was no longer looking for love, and he would like her to continue searching because then he could. And at this time, a servant comes into his room and says that they could not ensure security, and a girl with incredible abilities appeared. And he thinks that the level of this magician is high, and he has at least 5 rings of mana. The gentleman says that it is impossible that such a gifted magician was there, and then asks what she looked like. He answers that she was a blonde with green eyes and elf. Riel says that it irritates her because there are none here, and she claims that they are creatures, and asks why they did not give her the correct information. The teacher says that she is wasting her power, and she is tired, and suggests that Riel return. The Emperor reports that this data on the appearance of demons, their movements are insignificant, and there were no suspicious cases that could cause concern. However, the followers of death. The girl says that she seems to be the center of the gathering of people and is an Osbel. In Marvel, they rarely appear, but some stories have begun to spread, and they are currently checking out rumors. Charlotte asks what she thinks about McVen and about the connection with Evan. The Emperor says that they have no evidence of Evan's connection with them, but he does not think that they will be able to find anything significant, since he believes that this kid is not the type to spend time in company. The lady asks how long ago he realized that something was wrong with Evan. The Emperor reminds that he already told her that Evan stole the heart of the volcano, and after that incident, I often saw him in Calberance. The girl says that she heard that at that time in the mountains, he often got into fights with other magicians, and then strange rumors appeared that began after that day. Soon after Evan stole the heart of the volcano and escaped, many Marvel magicians went to Calberon for training, and they said that they saw a terrible picture surrounded by countless demons. Evan's body was lying stained with red liquid. The demons were sure that he was dead. His Majesty reports that when he heard this story, he immediately went there but found nothing, neither countless demons nor traces of magic. The gentleman says that he still doesn't know what those wizards saw then, but he is absolutely sure that something changed after that. Charlotte says that she must personally meet with those mages, because she believes that if he used the heart of the volcano for something, then traces should have remained after that. And she will meet with them, and if they conduct an investigation in Calberon, again, they will definitely find something. The main character believes that they must find a way to track down and capture Evan, because she is sure that he is still in Marvel, and they must do something before it is too late. The young gentleman asks if His Majesty is in his office. The servant explains that he has ordered that no one be let out, and the guy asks if he is with Arya Leeson. Now the guard explains that they were talking from yesterday until this morning. The young gentleman says that he is sure that they have something to talk about since they had the same teacher, and she is the 6th student of the archmage, and therefore it seems to him that glory and blessing have returned to Marvel again. The servant tells the master that behind closed doors, they are now saying that Arya Leeson is related by blood to Charlotte Eleanor, then asks if he knows anything about it. The guard says that he himself saw how much Lady Leeson resembles Mrs. Charlotte, and that is why he thought that suddenly she is her relative, the daughter that she was hiding. Hearing this, the master was surprised, and the servant explained that she was hiding because she had given birth to a daughter, and now with the appearance of a new student, rumors are growing like mushrooms. At this time, the door opens, and the main character comes out. The guard thought that she heard everything and did not understand what to do, and his friend said that she gave them her mistake, and therefore they think that everything is fine. Charlotte believes that Evan is still in Marvel, and therefore she will definitely catch him and do everything possible so that nothing happens to him, and the teacher does not worry in vain. The main character reflects on the fact that she should now think only about herself since she is very young. Lottie thinks that he immediately realized that her mana rings were damaged, and he couldn't help but notice that she had become so weak. The girl says that Lewister sent his people to Marvel's palace without fear because she saw the box in which the ring lay. The Archduke claims that he will never do anything that could harm Marvel and suggests that it would be better to tell what this story is about the 6th student. The lady explains that the Carcelian recognized her, and she needed a plausible story to explain her interruption here. Charlotte suggests thinking about what to do with the knights who arrived in Marvel with the delegation, and then says that she will stay in Marvel for a while, and if they are not going to return with her, then let her return to Klaus now. Jeffrey agrees with her and claims that he will resolve the issue, and then asks if she is okay, because he thinks that her voice sounds depressed. Charlotte says that she is wondering if everything is okay with him and what happened to him, because she understands that in Marvel, it is not so easy to get such a small magical device, and then asks what kind of strange potion he gave her. The Archduke asks if she is doing anything dangerous, and if it was not useful to her. The girl claims that she will never use it again. The young gentleman asks why she is dramatizing everything again, and then says that he tried so hard because he has been studying magic very hard lately. Lottie asks since when he became interested in magic, and he claims that he is very interested in it because he fell in love with it from the very beginning. The main character thinks that he is hiding something from her and tells her to confess right now. He replies that he thinks he has found the location of her second student, Julian Orvia. The teacher remembered that she told Riel that they were finally there and suggested that she constantly maintain the transformation spell so that she would not be recognized in this place. The gentleman says that Fertran continues to create problems, but this time he will turn a blind eye to it. But if it happens again, they will take action. The Emperor asks if Lady Lysine is in her room, and the servant replies that when His Majesty asked 10 minutes ago, and he checked, then she was there. The gentleman says that anything can happen in 10 minutes, and therefore tells her to go and check again. And at that time, he thought about how she would not be offended, because he told her not to deal with Evan's case. The butler informs His Majesty that the lady has disappeared from the room. At this time, the main character thought that she should check everything herself, because judging by his words, Julian belongs to some mysterious organization that is engaged in the search for so-called magic stones. The young lady realizes that after studying the places where they had been before, she has narrowed the search to 15 points, and since 4 of them are in Marvel, she is going to check them out. The Emperor asks the girl if she tried to hide with her students, and also wonders if everything has changed. She claims that nothing has changed, because she just has to see everything with her own eyes. The girl thought about what if the rumors turn out to be true, and His Majesty tells her not to blame herself, because he always said and repeats again that she does not know much about her students because they were strange from the very beginning. Carcillion also said that he knows nothing about the whereabouts of Julian. Then, if we discard all the rumors, they have one reliable fact, because for some unknown reason, half of the Pantheon forest was destroyed, after which Julian disappeared. She was the guardian of this forest, so the main character thought that she would be in the forest. Charlotte walks into a local bar, and a man approaches her and tells her that they are not open yet, and so suggests that they come back later when the sun goes down. The lady explains that she is looking for magic stones and talks about the blue crystal because she heard that it belongs to the owner of this establishment. Hearing this, the gentleman objects and says that he does not know who told her this and asks who she is. And then he says that no matter how much she offers for him, he is not going to sell him, and therefore tells her to get lost. The main character licked her lips to the owner and asked if he had this stone. He asked if the lady thought that if she came so close, he would immediately sell the crystal. Lottie explains that he doesn't have to sell it because she's not going to buy it. The man asks in surprise what he'll do then, and she replies that she'll just take it from him. The main character turns to Riel and tells her to get started, but suddenly the girl turns into a bird, and Lottie asks what she is doing and tells her to get started. Riel tells the teacher that someone is watching them. When the lady went outside, she took the flower and said that it was Julian, but the girl claimed that she was not Julian and then walked away. The Emperor asks the teacher where she went. The lady asks in surprise if she should tell him about her every step. He says that there is no need to say anything, and then says that the girl is now the teacher's 6th student, and he needs to know at least a little bit about her. Charlotte says that he is simply very busy, and so she will ask him only one thing. His Majesty informs that he has finished all his business for today, and so he can ask very slowly. Lottie wonders if it's true that he doesn't know anything about Julian. Vermon gets up from his chair and says that he suddenly remembered something, and the teacher tells him to sit down, and then says that she met her today in the vicinity of Marvel. The Emperor asks in surprise if she is alive, and then explains that it is just a rumor. The girl tells him to speak frankly. His Majesty explains that after that incident in the Pantheon, he immediately went there to meet Julian, but was never able to enter the Pantheon. The main character claims that without the Guardian's permission, a person cannot enter the Pantheon. He explains that, although he was unable to meet Julian, he learned something from the spirits that live there about the fact that there is no Guardian. After she used too much energy, Julian fell asleep to recover. Lady asks if that's why he thought she was dead, and then asks if they had a good relationship, and also wonders if he tried to find out anything. Carcillion tells the teacher that he did not give up on this matter because they sent a group of wizards to investigate everything, but Julian destroyed half of the forest, and that is why he also came to this conclusion. Charlotte claims that the keeper cannot harm the forest and then asks how she did it. The gentleman replies that he does not know for sure, but he thinks that here it is necessary to turn to Julian's past, although he could not find any obvious traces or evidence. But it seems to him that perhaps Julian tried to use time reversion magic. Riel asks the teacher what's wrong with her face, and asks where she was, and then offers to look at her because she ordered her not to leave her no matter what. Lottie touches the girl's face and says that when she regains her powers, she too can regain her memory, and then asks if she has already forgotten about it. Riel asks for forgiveness from the teacher, and then says that she suffered so much, and first she will heal her wounds, and then get the crystal for the lady. Charlotte says that it is already late, and most likely he has already called security, and therefore offers to come back a little later when everything has calmed down, and henceforth orders never to act without her permission, since she must believe her words and do what she says, and then asks if she understood everything. In the evening, the main character returned to the owner of the bar and said that it would be better if he gave it to her right away. The lady says that she doesn't know if he's just a fool or very brave, but she thinks that if he had given it to her during the day, he would be sleeping peacefully now, and says that she thinks that they were too polite to him, and then throws the knife right next to him. The girl says that he was lucky even though he left wounds on the teacher's body. He is still breathing, and if they weren't in Marvel now, she would have finished him off long ago. Riel tells him that they left him alive, and so he should appreciate it and not act rashly, and then they leave. Suddenly, the man screams because he is scared, and the main character asks if he is okay. The gentleman wonders why she appeared so silently, and then says that he did everything as she asked, and asks if it is okay to let them go like this, since he understands that they can understand that the crystal is a fake. The main character tells him not to worry because it's not just a fake. Charlotte reflects that it is now obvious that something has happened to Julian's memory, and if Carcillion is right, then she tried to turn back time, but her attempt failed, and all the energy from the spell hit Julian. Lottie reflects that if she used this magic in the Pantheon, then most likely the forest was destroyed because Julian was trying to protect his guardian. The lady understands that the stronger the magic, the greater the danger if the magic does not work. From what she saw, either her mind is clouded or she has lost her memory, but she does not know if Julian was harmed in any other way. The man asks if it is true that she works as a magician in the palace. The main character does not understand how much her memory is damaged and why he calls her Riel, and she calls him teacher and follows him. Lottie looked up and saw the girl, and then told her to jump because he would catch her. Riel, sitting on the tree, realized that it was a dream. At this time, Charlotte does not understand what this place is and thinks that she spent a lot of mana, which means that she covered a large distance, and this is definitely not Marvel. The girl thinks that first she needs to figure out what this place is, and at the end of the room, she sees a sleeping guy. The lady believes that this is the man whom Julian calls a teacher, and he is definitely a man who looks like her. Seeing her, the guy screams and asks who she is, and then asks really. At this time, the main character thought that it just happened, and she doesn't understand if everything will be okay with him, because she understands that he is more ordinary than she thought, and there must be something special about him. And she also wonders what kind of relationship there might be between him and Julian. Suddenly, a girl comes into the room and tells her to take her hands off him. Charlotte calls her name Julian, and the lady with green eyes says that it seems that she does not have enough level even to create a familiar, and that is why she came herself, and also asks if it was not enough for her to just follow them, and she found this place by tracking the crystal. The green-eyed lady believes that she is truly fearless, and also asks what made her come all this way, and what she did to the teacher. The main character replies that nothing, and then explains that he just slipped off the bed and fell. And it seems to her that her teacher is very weak, although she understands that this friend is still young, but he needs to train a lot to strengthen his body. Julian tells the lady to move away from the teacher immediately. Julian Orvia, great archmage, guardian of the forest of life, Pantheon. She was the second student, Charlotte Eleanor. The green-eyed girl attacked the main character, and Lottie suggests taking a closer look, because this person who calls her Riel is not her teacher, and then hugs her by the neck and says that her teacher is her. Julian locked the lady behind bars and said that when the sun rises and the teacher wakes up, he will decide how to get rid of her. Charlotte asks to take a closer look at it, and the girl says that if she uses magic in this room, she will immediately know about it and therefore advises not to do anything stupid. And when the main character was left alone, she thought that it was useless because there was no reaction from her side. But the good news is that Julian's mana and magic are fine. Lottie understands that her student does not remember her because she was not pleased to see the hostility on her part, and that if she really considered her an enemy, the girl would not have locked her in the room. The lady understands that, although she was very sensitive to what happened with the teacher, she is sure that Julian was not going to fight her seriously, and suggests that maybe she instinctively feels her, because otherwise the appearance of this teacher would not be so similar to hers. The main character reflects on the fact that she doesn't want them to see such a Charlotte Eleanor, and if Julian forgot her name, someone would pretend to be her and use her to do bad things. Charlotte is sure that she will not leave it like this for anything, because memory is a very delicate matter that cannot be easily influenced by magic. And if you try to do something from the outside, it will only make the problem worse. The girl believes that the best way would be to make Julian remember everything herself. The knight asks in surprise what it is, and then he felt pain and passed out. Fatan says that he thinks this is the right place, and he never thought that he would be doing something like this, and believes that if everything goes well here, then he will finally be able to meet the young lady in Marvel. At dawn, the green-eyed girl brought the lady a blanket and said that she just didn't want her to catch a cold and bother her with her cough. The main character screams and asks her to wait, and then says that they need to talk. However, the girl leaves, and Lottie screams and says that she likes to sleep on a tree and also eats green fruits from the forest called Liliana. Charlotte reports that she even had to drag a whole tree from there because it was a hassle to go there every time, just for the fruit. Juliana brought her something to eat and said that she doesn't want her to bother her because she's hungry. The teacher suggests looking at her because she thinks that if she looks now, everything will be different. And the girl claims that she doesn't want her to interfere because she's bored and suggests taking books because she just doesn't want her to cry when she gets scared. The main character thought that this girl seemed to subconsciously feel who she was because she believed that otherwise she would not walk back and forth all night and would not bring her all these things. Charlotte thinks that in any case, her concern for her is a good sign because she didn't do anything special at night, so her mana is in good condition. The teacher realized that it was time to act, and she used the magic circle to seal the mage. When the mana change occurs in a limited space, then the seal binds the subject for a certain period of time, and at the same time gives a signal to the magician who created the circle. The lady understands that this magic is often used to bind magicians, but it does not work on her, because this circle was created by her. It wasn't Lottie who created the seals, but Julian. And here she simply explains that she could have come out a long time ago, but she didn't come out because she was bringing her mana back to normal. A man asks Riel if there were strangers in her room yesterday. She replies that there was no one, and then asks if he had a bad dream. The guy asks if she thinks it was a dream, and then says that it seems to him that something has been happening to her lately because she doesn't laugh at all, and that's why he's sure that when he first met her. But that's not the point, because he just wants to say that she used to laugh a lot. And he also asks if she might have some disturbing thoughts. The man says that if something like that happened, she would share it with him, and then asks if that is true. He grabs the girl and says that if something is bothering her, she should tell him right away. The gentleman says that they have been looking for them for a long time, and he says that a lot of time has passed since he contacted them and asks why they came only now. Mr. apologizes and explains that a small problem arose, and several guards escaped right in the middle of the night, disappearing without a trace, and then asks why he keeps such a poor eye on his people. At this time, Julian remembered the lady's words that she should take a good look because her teacher was right in front of her. Charlotte tells Riel to be here until tomorrow morning and wait for her orders, and as soon as she calls him, let him come to her, and the girl agrees with hers. The main character uses the ring to contact the Archduke. He says that he checked what she asked for, and then reports that for a long time, this place was used as a prison, and if you believe the data 40 years after it was closed, the building was demolished. The gentleman says that, judging by her words, this building still exists and is now used for other purposes. The girl understands that if these people locked in cells are not prisoners, then they are slaves. Jeffrey asks if she's going to go it alone, and then tells her that he's trying to solve the problem with REBORN, but if she makes a mistake, she'll be in big trouble. Suddenly, the lady saw knights pulling a cart with a man in it, and she hid with the help of magic. Gilhart approaches the girl and asks if he imagined it, and she replies that she didn't. And the man asks in surprise what Milady is doing here. The man says that if Julian Orvia is in such a state, it is difficult to imagine what will happen if she meets the leader, and suggests that a fight might start. Charlotte says that if this happens, she will stop them. He asks in surprise how she is going to resist the archmages, and thinks that the leader can listen to her. The girl asks if he has an eye patch. He replies that of course he does, because he always carries it with him. Lottie asks why he carries it around with him, since she thought he was done with those stupid kidnappings. The man explains that he feels empty without her, and then asks why she suddenly needs a bandage. The lady replies that she will lend it to him for a short time, just in case. The guys saw magic, and the main character says that it seems she spread her mana throughout the entire room to find strangers, and therefore from now on he must use mana carefully. Charlotte wonders if Julian noticed she was missing, or if she sensed Dan's presence, but she realizes that either way they must now act quickly. The girl asks if he said that Dan allowed himself to be captured to get into the dungeon. Gilhart says that he was unable to find the entrance to the dungeon from the outside, and that breaking into the building openly didn't seem like the best idea either. He says that he's not that sensitive to magic, but the leader said that there's something really bad down there. The captain says that he probably already noticed that the people who worked an event sent the captured people here, and it seems to him that they are doing something terrible with these people. For followers of Doom, using human lives in the name of evil is as decent as it is, and if their proposals are true, then they should finish their work as quickly as possible. And of course, we must not forget about Mrs. Orvia, because this matter is more complicated and confusing, and he does not even know how it all might end. Gilhart tells Milady that he will do his best, even if he has to put his life on the line. She objects and says that life is somehow too much, but he claims that he is ready to do it because this mission was entrusted to him by Madame Charlotte. The man asks if she learned about the mission from Lady Charlotte, and decided to share the information with the leader, since she is Lady Charlotte's sixth apprentice. The lady says that it is surprising, because news spreads so quickly. Gilhart says that the leader has been thinking about this idea all day long, and then asks why she did not tell him herself that she is Charlotte's sixth disciple, because he is a little sad about it. The man says that the main thing is that everything is fine with Mrs. Charlotte, and now he understands why the leader behaved like that after meeting her. The main character suggests focusing on their situation since they were captured, and Julian is looking for them. The girl thought that if Julian and Dan meet, she should be nearby, but the captain says that it is better for them to act together. At this time, the servant informs the Norman master that they have brought him, and then reports that he saw how this man overpowered several of their guards with magic. The gentleman says that he was ordered to immediately report strangers, and therefore wants to take a look, and after a few minutes screaming, he says that this magician scared him and asks why he had such a look. The servant asks what they will do, and he orders them to get rid of him because he wants to get out of here as quickly as possible. The man says that if it is a magician, then they must first report him. At this time, Mrs. Riel comes to them, and Norman says that he is glad to see her. She says that she is looking for a person, and this is a woman with such a tiny body that it seems she can fit in a pocket, and she has golden eyes, soft wheat hair, and a calm, soothing voice. And if they find her, then they should not dare to touch her. The gentleman says that he is sure that this is not the man she is looking for. She agrees with him and says that the demon did not look so stupid. Norman asks the lady if it is possible to leave everything like this, and she turns around and leaves. The guy who was sitting in the cage asks what happened to her, and that's why she stayed here. The girl comes back and approaches him, and then asks what he meant. The guy asks, what if he doesn't want to tell her? She jumps on the cage and says that he better answer if he doesn't want to make her angry. The man says that he doesn't know who she called stupid, and he doesn't know what she's doing here in such a state, and therefore suggests that she come to her senses and do something that she will later regret. Riel remembered some moments and asks if he looked like a pea, and therefore thinks that it is obvious that they have already met and she should tell the teacher about it. Hearing this, the guy asks in surprise if she knows his teacher, and she claims that most likely the teacher he is talking about is not her teacher. The man objects and says that this is his teacher since the birth of the earth. Suddenly, a knight appeared in this place with the help of magic. The lady says that she asked him to create a magic circle, and then asks why he destroyed the entire wall. The captain asks if she thinks it's that easy to create a high-level magic circle consisting of 5 stages, and then claims that only a leader is capable of such a thing. The woman says that the flow of mana could easily be traced back step by step. He thinks that if it were that easy, he would have conquered the world by now, and then claims that if she says so, why didn't she do it herself? Charlotte objects and says that her mother is too valuable and she should save her. The captain asks if everything is okay with her, because he does not understand what it was. Lottie tells him not to worry, because he will soon be free. Gilhart thought that she easily found the entrance to the dungeon that even the leader couldn't find, and she easily dealt with the high-level magic circle that blocked the entrance, and understands that she did this because she is Charlotte's 6th disciple. The main character believes that the guards probably heard the noise and will be here soon, so they need to get ready. The guy asks if they are going to fight, and then claims that he can handle everyone except Orvia. At this time, the girl does not understand why he is so excited. Julian looked behind the bars and saw a lady there. And at that time, she thought that it was strange because she didn't look so strong, but easily destroyed the magic circle that she had prepared, and also found a magic circle that was hidden under several layers. The young lady asks who she is, and the main character replies that she already told her that Julian. At this time, the captain who was lying on the floor thought that this girl was addressing her informally, and the main character suggests thinking carefully about what kind of person her teacher is, and then tells her that he steals magic stones, holds innocent people in captivity, and tries to use them for personal gain. Charlotte asks if her teacher is really such a person. At this time, the man thought that these so-called magic stones were of no use, and he added so many, but they were still not enough. The man asks if this doesn't mean he needs to move on to the next option, because it will take a lot of energy, so naturally he needs more mana and needs someone stronger, a person who can't compare to ordinary people. The gentleman says that it would be best to find a person with a huge supply of mana who could constantly saturate with energy, for example, someone like an archmage. At this time, Julian thinks about the fact that she does not remember anything and what she did in this place, but it seems to her that she was looking for someone and was looking for an important person for her, and she believes that if she finds this person, everything will be fine. The girl saw a handsome man with golden eyes and said that he was her teacher. Julian tells the lady that there is a reason for everything the teacher does, and when the time comes, he will explain everything. Charlotte asks in surprise if she really thinks so, and the girl claims that the teacher would not lie to her. Norman enters the dungeon and screams, asking the lady what happened here and who did it. She explains that it was another intruder, and then asks if he was caught. The man explains that it seems he broke out, so the number of guards needs to be increased. He asks if they need to first look for the presence of unknown mana inside, and then says that the first thing he will do is tell Mr. Adaru about it. The lady objects and says that she will say it herself. At this time, Mr. Norman appears and reports that strangers have entered the building and he caught one, but it seems there is a whole group of them. Ader asks Riel if they have strangers and also wonders if she missed them. He thinks that these criminals are probably very good, and he does not know what their goal is, and then asks if all this was not a dream. Ader tells the girl that she must find their trail, because he is ready to see the strangers with his own eyes, and then orders her to catch them herself. Riel says that first she should check the traces they left here, and he asks in surprise if there is anything there. The girl tells the teacher that she remembered something, and he tells her to get out of the way. Riel asks if he slept next to a small child, and the man claims that he ordered her to get out of the way. She says that she was there with him too, and asks if he understands this. Ader comes closer to the girl, and then hits her in the face and claims that he ordered her to get out of the way and shut up, and then do what he ordered. Seeing this, the main character could not restrain herself, and attacked this man. She grabbed him by the throat and said that he was a vile misunderstanding, who had a terrible habit of using his hands. Ader screams and turns to Rael, and Charlotte says that she tried to wait until Julian realized everything herself, and then says that she thinks it would be better to immediately remove him from the path, and then says that Riel is no longer here. The man turns to Riel and says that this is the woman he saw yesterday, and then says that she wants to finish him off and suggests that he get rid of her quickly. Mr. Norman tells the girl to quickly grab this woman. At this time, the captain thought that if he acted so carelessly, he would suffer. Juliana shoots a magic arrow at the main character, but she deflects it and offers the girl to relax, and then says that after finishing her off, everything will be as she wants, and if she doesn't want to see her, then she will disappear from her sight. Lottie says that if she can't shoot her, then he shouldn't doubt her, but believe her. Ader, watching the girls, tells Riel to shoot her faster, because this lady wanted to finish him off, and whatever she says, let the girl not believe her words. He thinks that this lady wants to stop them. The captain says that he is digging his own hole, and at this time, the main character says that she did not want everything to go so far, and she does not know why Julian took this man for her teacher, but does not think that only because he has golden eyes and a bandage. Charlotte says that she thinks that she needed a teacher so much that she was ready to believe that such a person could be her teacher, and therefore suggests that she think again why she doubts now. The main character says that if she trusts her, she will tell her everything, and how they met, and what she achieved, and what path she decided to take. Lottie says that she wants to tell her everything, even if Julian doesn't remember. Then she remembers, and therefore asks to trust her, because she only needs to take one step. Ader asks Riel if she does it only because she knew and decided to take her, and he thinks that it is impossible to take her away again. She is his, and no one will ever take this girl away from him. The man says that he will finish her off himself if she does not disappear, because he believes that then Riel will become her old self again. The captain saw that the man was going to attack the lady and warned her about it. Julian at this time shot an arrow at the Ader and then hugged the main character. Charlotte hugs the girl and says that she is back. The man believes that everything is for the sake of the Pantheon, and as a keeper, she made the best decision as a result of this marriage. Peace in the forest will be ensured, as well as the saved peoples of the Northwest. The gentleman turns to Julian and thanks her for submitting to his difficult decision, and then says that tomorrow they will all become one family, and their strongest union will exist forever, because this is their unity and prosperity. Of the Pantheon will be with them, and this gives hope, and then asks if it is so. He says that tomorrow she will become his bride and asks why she does not smile. At this time, the Marvel magicians come to them, and the guy asks in surprise what they are doing here. He says to give them away, and then asks what made the magicians go such a long way. The magician says that they have come here to meet the keeper of the Pantheon, and the young master claims that they have arrived just in time and welcomes them. The main character turns to the girl and asks if they have met before. She says that the weather is so nice today, and she is very glad to meet her. Charlotte asks if she would mind if she sat next to her, and then says that she actually approached her because she has several questions going through her head, and no matter how much she thinks about it, it all seems strange to her. Lottie says she heard the wedding is tomorrow, but she doesn't look like a happy bride, and then asks if she's getting married voluntarily. The girl replies that outsiders should not be concerned about this issue. The main character asks if she had business with the keeper of the Pantheon, and wonders why that man became the keeper of the Pantheon. The guy says that he is entering, and at this time, the main character has disappeared. The girl asks in surprise what happened, and he says that it seemed to him that the lady was upset, so he brought hot tea and he brewed Turan leaves so that she would sleep better. The man offers to drink it warm and have a good rest, and then asks if they can start after the Marvel wizards leave. The gentleman asks why they should think about them, because he thinks that without Charlotte Eleanor, the Marvel mages are nothing, and he asks if he needs this red liquid to cure his illness, because he was told that the red liquid of a highborn elf is the best ingredient. The man asks how long it will take, and how long he needs to wait. He replies that they originally planned to do everything after the wedding ceremony, and therefore asks to wait a little and not worry. The gentleman asks if he knows the pain of decaying flesh, and then claims that waiting even one day is unbearable. Julian overheard this whole conversation. Seeing her, the man asks why she woke up, since he was sure that the lady would sleep until tomorrow evening. The girl asks in surprise what they did to her, and the guy asks what they should do now that she has woken up, since he understands that the wedding has not yet taken place and the oath has already been broken. He says that whether she survives or dies, everything now depends only on him. The gentleman says that she will become a cure for his illness, thanks to that stupid elf. He easily got the precious ingredient. And as soon as they prove the effectiveness of her blood, they will seize her entire clan and turn it into raw material for the medicine, and therefore suggests not to be too sad. The man says that it was the keeper of the Pantheon who pretended to be so noble, but he is not that stupid, and then asks if she really thought that he would give up the northwestern region for selling him one elf. The guy says that even for her red liquid, this is too high a price. Hearing this, Julian hit him, and at that time thought that she should tell everyone. Elf asks Julian if everything is okay with her. She tells them that they were deceived, and they did not intend to give them the northwestern region from the very beginning, because they did not want an alliance and unity, but only wanted to use their red liquid to create something. The elf asks in surprise what she is talking about, and then claims that she will soon become a bride, and therefore wonders why she is wandering around the castle. He claims that she will become a beloved woman only if she takes care of her body and humbly waits. The girl asks in surprise if he knew everything he says, that her sacrifice will bring them happiness, and therefore asks him to understand them. At this moment, everything went dark before her eyes. The man offers to take a look, because it was he who was chosen by the guardians of the Pantheon, and they believe that he is their only hope. The gentleman says that the bleeding is quite strong, and then asks if it is possible to leave her in this state. The doctor says that she is not a human, and she will not die so easily because she has special enchanted shackles, and even if she wakes up again, she will not be able to move a finger. The doctor says that he feels sorry for this elf, and if he had the opportunity, he would take her home. At this time, Julian woke up and decided to quickly run away. The man screaming says that she has nowhere to run, and therefore suggests that she slowly go back down, because jumping out of the window, she could die. The girl remembered the man's words, that as soon as they prove the effectiveness of her red liquid, they will capture her entire clan and turn it into raw material for medicine. And at this time, she does not understand what to do. Charlotte extended her hand and told her to jump, because she would catch it, and then told her that she only needed to take one step and trust her. The elf trusted the main character and jumped out of the window. Lottie claims that she did a great job and grabbed the girl with the help of magic. The lady explains that after meeting her, she went to the Pantheon for the seed, and if she had known that this would happen, she would have stayed with her. The elf screams and asks what is going on here, and what Julian has planned. He claims that no one chooses a keeper, and no one becomes one, because one can only be born one. The main character gave the girl a seed, and then said that she was the newly born keeper of the Pantheon. Hearing this, the Aether screams and says that the deal is broken in any case, and whether it is the Mavrilian magicians or the Guardian, no one can take away what is rightfully his. He orders them to get out their swords and knives and surround these stupid magicians. Charlotte asks what they have to do with it. The man turns to Mrs. Eleanor and says he doesn't think she should reveal herself, and she tells him not to move. The man claims that their help is not needed here. Juliana used magic and tied everyone up. The elf asks the girl to have mercy on him, because he believes that there was a misunderstanding, and therefore offers to talk. The magician looked at the man who was lying on the ground and said that even though he was in the center of the blow, he still survived and considered it strange. Charlotte tells the girl that she didn't think she needed consolation, and then says that she knows a very good place, and there is a clear sky, and the weather is much better than here, and she can't even imagine how beautiful the endless forest is. The main character claims that she is sure that as soon as she sees him, she will immediately fall in love with him, and then says that if she wants, she can go with her Yulman agreed. Ader asks Riel why she looks at him like that, and thinks that she is his and only his. The knight asks when he will calm down. At this time, a monster appeared in whose mouth the Dan was given. Gilhart tells the leader that he caught a really big fish. Giuliano tells the teacher to wait a little while. She deals with him because she has a lot to tell her. Dan tells her not to call her teacher, and then says that it is Lady Arya. The elf tells Charlotte that this freak is talking some nonsense. The leader claims that if her head started working, then that's why she suggests thinking with it carefully, and then they claim that this is Lady Arya. The teacher suggests that they first sort out the situation that has arisen, since they cannot allow him to destroy everything here, and therefore suggests not to forget that there are people locked in the cages. Dan tells the lady that this is not an ordinary demon, and he is sure that it was a man, but then before his eyes, he turned into a huge demon. The guy asks if she remembers that unknown man who summoned a demon in Avant and then ran away. He thinks it looks a lot like him, because he was wearing a hooded cape, so he couldn't see his face. The man believes that this is exactly the person in front of them. The main character reflects on what he said, that the man acquired the form of a demon, and she also feels it, and the demons that appeared in Avant had the same origin. Charlotte thinks that it still can't be Evan, but she thinks that she needs to lure him and throw him through the roof, or better yet, throw him to the side and make her way out there. Lottie muses that if Evan has something to do with what's going on, then maybe he's here too. Dan saw the blonde guy and asked what he was doing here. The magician smiled and said that they went a bit overboard and cut off his precious hand so mercilessly. The leader says that it was Evan, the mysterious man in Event, and asks what he is doing here, and if his new friend is with him. He also wonders if he taught him how to summon demons. Dan thinks that even if the teacher was not around for a long time, it is not a reason to go crazy. And then he explains that he meant that he became like this because the teacher left. The stranger says that this is very interesting because there are 3 of Charlotte's students here. The elf took the bow and said that she thought that they should take care of the dinner menu in advance. The man said that they were all so serious and in a bad mood again. Evan turns to him and tells him to leave, and the stranger agrees with him and leaves. The leader asks where he is going to run, because he thinks that now is the time for him to die. Charlotte asks Julian if she has seen Evan here. She replies that it is the first time she has seen him in this place. The main character is interested in whether they know that here they use Julian, who has lost her memory, and there they keep innocent people imprisoned and experiment on them. She is interested in whether Evan knew everything about this. The blonde guy tells Charlotte that what she and Dan were looking for is down below. Lottie extends her hand to him and says that it is not too late, and that no matter what happens to him, she can help because she is sure that she can fix everything, and therefore suggests that he return to this side. Evan takes her hand and says that he would like this hand to be extended only for him, and then hugs her. The guy says that if this is all his doing, then she will hate him. The student touches the lady's face and calls her teacher Lottie Objects and tells him not to call her teacher. At this time, Dan and Julian come up to them. The main character reports that he said what she was looking for here. Ader, sitting near the wall, reflects on the fact that they think that this is his end. However, he believes that he will finish them all off if he finds the strength, and first of all, he needs to get rid of this woman and Riel. Evan asks if she was looking for traces of death, and then says that these are fragments collected from the ashes of the dead, and this is an ugly force created by the greed of fools. Ader thinks that it doesn't matter that the creation is not finished yet, because he believes that he will be the first to receive it, and this power, and Riel, will all be his. Evan says that they won't even have to go down because he will show them everything. Dan asks in surprise what's wrong with him, and thinks that maybe it's late puberty or a rebellious period. Lady says that now is not the time for jokes, because she thinks that it's better to finish off the demon first and try to talk. The captain asks, "What is this, and what is going on here? And why is everyone busy with some stupid thing? And he is here working for 10. He understands that it was this negative energy that the leader felt then, and he has a feeling that in this whirlwind, all the worst things in the world are gathered together. The magician thought that it was clear, because he saw that they had thought everything through. There are a lot of people here now, and 2 archmages, so if they use it now, everything will be perfect. At this time, the main character thought about what they were now, and then tells Julian that they need shelter to protect people. Charlotte reports that Evan is surrounded by energy, but it is too crowded here, and so she suggests that they step back and not come closer until she gives the signal. And she understands that she must do this because she raised these children. Evan asks what he is going to do, but he flinched when he saw the main character because she had red liquid on her mouth. The guy says he's heard it 100 times, and then asks how long they're going to make them stand like that. The gentleman says he's answered him exactly 45 times. Jeffrey doesn't understand why there is a red spot on his mouth. Jerome asks the man what he put in His Excellency's tea and puts a knife to his throat. The man explains that they never served tea to anyone. He asks how they dared not give them tea after they had come such a long way. He thinks that the gentleman must have been under a lot of stress because of this treatment, and he felt ill. At this time, the Archduke opens the door and announces that he cannot wait any longer, and therefore asks to open the gates immediately. Louister says that he heard about it because it's some kind of curse, and then asks why she should send me her students, because he thinks that let them do it, and they will have a picnic in the meantime. The main character claims that she must figure this out herself, since the investigation is still not complete. Jeffrey asks if she has a solution. She replies that it is destruction. The master asks, what if the bearer of the curse is a human? Charlotte claims that it is impossible, but if she does not find another way out, then he will die or she will finish him off, and it can be one of two things. At this time, the main character understands when she fell and what is happening. Gilhart asks the lady if she is okay, and then explains that the lady suddenly lost consciousness and that Psycho Evan rushed to her, and then the leader and the Lady Orvia intervened, and the three of them clashed in a brutal fight, and that place now looks like hell. The captain says he saw the ladies fall and followed her. She asks how the people who are locked in the cages are, and she wonders if everything is okay with them. The man explains that everything will be fine with them because the leader is smart enough to come up with something. Charlotte understands that Evan doesn't have red eyes, but she wonders what he's going to do about it, because now that this power is activated, it will be almost impossible to take it away from here. And if talking doesn't help, then the only option will be to seal it. The main character does not understand whether it is possible to seal such a huge amount of energy, because she knows that there are no sealing stones or spirit stones nearby. And Dan and Julian have no experience in sealing such energy. Lottie understands that if they do something wrong, they could be in danger, and she doesn't have anything with her that could help her, and she doesn't understand what she can do in such a situation. The captain asks Milady what is wrong with her and whether she is feeling ill again, and also wonders if she can walk and carry her in her arms. He tells her to stand here because he will be back soon. The main character understands that she cannot do anything with such a weak body because she is helpless. Suddenly, the Archduke appears and says that he always considered this to be her shortcoming, and then informs her that she is not alone and asks why she always tries to do everything alone. Jeffrey claims that everyone present here is her magic and her sword, and therefore believes that she can handle everything because he also likes to act tougher. Hearing this, the captain does not understand what kind of nonsense His Excellency is talking, and Dan says that this infuriating old man has come to the rescue again. The Archduke tells Evan that no matter what he has done, and no matter what he plans to do in the future, even if he dies and is reborn, he will never defeat the teacher, and therefore suggests that it is better to give up now. The gentleman says he has a bad feeling, and he must do something about it. Charlotte tells him not to even dare touch the energy, because if he does, the vortex could become even more dangerous. He asks if she trusts him, and then tells her that she trusts herself more.